Everyone in the arena thought the fight was already over. And honestly, who could blame them? Chengdu's sword had been knocked from his hand. His body was trembling from exhaustion, and standing across from him was Zhou Xiaogu, a genius among geniuses who had reached the absolute limit of Tier 1 martial arts and awakened her own martial soul. She had him completely outclassed, at least that was what everyone believed. Xiaogu raised her staff and declared that the battle was over. But our protagonist calmly told her that she wasn't the one who got to decide that. Then his eyes flashed with electric blue energy. The moment Xiaogu charged, an overwhelming force invaded her mind. The arena disappeared around her, replaced by a terrifying illusion. From within the smoke, a massive shadow with a single glowing red eye slowly emerged. And while she desperately fought to break free, blue energy wrapped around Du's fallen sword. The experts watching from above could no longer remain calm. This boy hadn't merely reached the limit of martial arts. His mental power had also transformed his soul into a martial soul. In other words, the supposedly sick student standing before them possessed two completely different paths to power. That should have been impossible. After all, Du had missed 2 entire years of school while trapped in a coma. Most students barely remembered he existed, and the few who did only saw him as an easy target. Yet now, the strongest universities in the world were preparing to fight over him. But becoming a champion wouldn't be Du's greatest challenge. Because shortly after this battle, a level 8 silver demon would appear inside his supposedly safe city, and this time, the monster wouldn't be coming for him. It would be standing directly in front of his little sister. Worse, someone powerful would be secretly watching the entire attack unfold. So how did a forgotten student who lost 2 years of his life become a peerless genius? What exactly happened during his coma? And why were the people protecting Liang City deliberately placing him in danger? To understand that, we need to return to the disaster that started everything. An emergency broadcast suddenly echoed throughout Liang City. The 7th biosphere was under attack, and every resident had been ordered to evacuate immediately. Explosions tore through the city as fiery meteors rained from the sky. But hidden among them was something different. A single streak of blue light, a glowing blue crystal, descended at an unbelievable speed, crackling with violent energy, and standing directly beneath it was a young man. Before he could react, the crystal pierced straight through his heart. He coughed up blood as blue flames spread through his veins. That young man was Chengdu. And somehow, that wasn't the end of his life. It was only the beginning. 2 years later, students gathered at Liang City No. 1 High School for the Hongji class placement exam. The Hongji class was reserved for the school's 10 strongest students. For most of them, entering it was their best chance of becoming an elite martial artist. The exam followed the same format as the college entrance examination. Academic subjects were worth 225 points, while the martial arts assessment was worth 525, bringing the total to 750 points. In other words, having a big brain helped. But having a bigger fist helped a lot more. As the students entered the examination hall, one skinny young man quietly wondered whether he still had a chance of becoming a martial artist. This was our protagonist, Chengdu. And yes, he was the same boy who had taken a blue crystal directly through the heart. During his first year of high school, Du had suddenly fallen into a coma. His parents had been forced to apply for a 2-year medical leave, leaving him far behind every student his age. This exam was likely his final chance, and Du had no intention of wasting it. On his way into the examination hall, Du accidentally bumped into another student. Several boys immediately stopped him. They were surprised that someone who had missed 2 entire years of school still had the nerve to attempt the Hongji class exam. One of them sarcastically praised his courage before asking whether Du seriously believed he was some kind of genius. Du grabbed the boy's hand. He calmly thanked him for his concern, then suggested that he worry about passing his own exam first. After that, our protagonist simply walked away. The group stared after him in disbelief. Back in their first year, Du had been someone they could easily push around, yet after disappearing for 2 years, he had returned with an entirely different presence. One of the bullies wanted to teach him a lesson immediately. However, his companion called him brainless, starting trouble before the exam could get them disqualified. It would be much safer to wait for the martial arts assessment. A malicious grin spread across his face. If Du happened to get crippled during an official examination, no one could blame them for it. At least that was the plan. These poor guys still thought they were dealing with the same Du from 2 years ago. Inside the examination hall, Du sat before his computer. The first questions covered the history of their world and the beginning of the High Martial Calendar. In year 2842 of the Old Era, a civilization from another world discovered Earth and launched an invasion. Humanity responded with nuclear weapons. 2 years later, the war ended in humanity's complete defeat. More than 5 billion people had died, and global nuclear radiation had permanently transformed the survivors. Human beings began breaking through their physical limits. Then, on August 27th, year 2860 of the Old Era, the life intensity of every surviving adult reached level 2. Humanity awakened martial arts abilities powerful enough to fight back. That day marked the end of the Old Era. It also became the first day of the High Martial Calendar. The rest of the examination covered the heroes who had contributed to the early wars and the failed policies created while humanity struggled to rebuild civilization. Du answered every question without hesitation. Then he submitted his exam. Just as expected, our boy received a perfect score. After all, he hadn't truly spent the last 2 years sleeping peacefully inside a hospital bed. Ever since the blue crystal entered his body, an inexplicable power had pulled his consciousness into a mysterious space every night. The rewards he obtained there awakened his mental power and gave him a photographic memory. That was why Du could answer questions about lessons he had never attended. Unfortunately, academics were only worth 225 points. If he wanted to enter the Hongji class, the martial arts assessment was what truly mattered. And for that, Du still needed one final night of preparation. Du returned home and called out to his father. His dad welcomed him back and told him that dinner was ready. As Du entered, his examination ticket slipped from his pocket. His mother picked it up, teased him for being careless, and reminded him not to lose it before the martial arts assessment. The family then gathered around the table. His father handed him a bottle. Du immediately recognized it as chi blood powder and asked where it had come from. His dad explained that he had bought it to help increase Du's score in the Hongji class exam. Du tried to refuse. He assured his father that he could pass without relying on expensive supplements. But his father patted him on the back and told him not to worry. Although neither of his parents was a martial artist, they were willing to spend everything they had to support both Du and his younger sister. No matter how much money their children needed, they would find a way. Du looked at the bottle before quietly accepting it. A single serving of chi blood powder cost 20,000 credits. His father had probably spent most of their savings on it. Later that night, Du sat alone on his bed. In this world, an ordinary person couldn't even guarantee the safety of their own family. When monsters or alien civilizations attacked, only martial artists possessed the strength to protect anyone. Du tightened his grip around the bottle. Whether he entered the Hongji class depended on what happened that night. He closed his eyes and focused his mind. When Du opened them again, he was no longer sitting inside his bedroom. Our protagonist now stood in a vast frozen wasteland with a sword in his hand. Countless monsters surrounded a glowing crystal behind him. This was the mysterious space Du had entered every night since falling into his coma. The rules here were simple. Protect the crystal. If the monsters destroyed it, Du would remain unconscious for the entire following day. But if he died while defending it, he would immediately wake up in reality with his energy completely restored. Yes, the safest way for our boy to wake up was apparently to get himself killed. It had taken him several painful attempts to figure that one out. At first, Du had been terrified of dying inside this place. Because of that fear, the monsters repeatedly destroyed the crystal and left him trapped in a coma. Everything changed once he discovered that death carried no real consequence. From that moment onward, Du stopped running. More importantly, every successful defense increased either his life intensity or mental power. A system alert warned him that the next wave would arrive in 30 seconds. Du tightened his grip on his sword. Only the first successful defense each night granted him a reward, but that didn't mean the later battles were useless. Every monster gave him more combat experience, and every death taught him how to survive a little longer. The monsters charged. Du swung his sword and tore through the entire wave. Once the battlefield fell silent, he opened his status panel. His life intensity had reached level 5.1, while his mental power had reached level 5. He could lift 1,000 jin and move at twice the speed of an ordinary person. Those numbers were decent, but they were nowhere near enough to guarantee him a place in the Hongji class, let alone turn him into the peerless genius from the arena. Suddenly, another warning appeared. The fifth wave was beginning. A massive red dragon descended from the sky and unleashed a raging torrent of flames. Du narrowly leaped aside. The dragon immediately followed with a vicious claw strike. Our protagonist jumped into the air to counter, only for its enormous tail to come sweeping toward him. Du blocked with his sword. The impact sent him sliding backward across the frozen ground. After dying to this creature countless times, Du had finally memorized its movements, attack patterns, and rhythm. At least he thought he had. Du launched himself forward and activated the flowing light sword art, Breeze in the Forest. His blade tore into the dragon's chest. The wounded creature roared before suddenly going berserk. Du immediately realized that he had gotten careless. Fortunately, the attack hadn't seriously injured him. The dragon lowered its body and charged again. Du slid beneath the massive beast and narrowly avoided being crushed. This time he refused to panic. Becoming a martial artist depended on tomorrow's exam, and tomorrow's exam depended on him defeating this monster tonight. No matter how many times he had already died here, Du was determined to win this battle. Du leaped toward the red dragon with his sword raised. The dragon opened its massive jaws as our protagonist charged straight toward it. Without warning, it unleashed another blast of fiery breath. Du narrowly twisted his body away from the attack. At that moment, he realized that having a smaller body offered some unique advantages in this battle. He swung his sword with all his strength and struck the dragon. The wounded beast roared before unleashing yet another burst of flames. Du focused on his agility and activated his technique, drums and gongs beating loudly. He unleashed a devastating slash that pierced straight through the dragon. The massive beast came crashing to the ground. Du immediately followed up with one final strike. The dragon collapsed and lay completely motionless. The system congratulated him for successfully defending against all 5 waves of monster attacks. His mental power increased by 1 level, and he received the Void Immortal Visualization method as a reward for completing 5 defensive waves. Du was surprised to receive a visualization method. His school had taught him that visualization methods were rare techniques used to actively cultivate mental power. Although the system rewards could directly increase his level, possessing another method to grow stronger was always a good thing. A notification warned him to prepare because the next wave of monsters would arrive soon. An entire army of powerful monsters advanced toward him. Du counted 30 creatures, each possessing a life intensity 1 level higher than his own. He doubted he would be able to clear this wave anytime soon. Instead of wasting his energy, he decided to examine the new visualization method first. In the next instant, he found himself standing inside a digital world. A massive and horrifying creature towered over him. Our MC finally understood why it was called a visualization method. As long as he gazed at the giant creature, it would force him to undergo a trial. Back in reality, Du remained seated as he cultivated. A faint blue aura surrounded his body. His younger sister suddenly entered the room and told him that it was time to eat. As Du stood up to change his shirt, she remarked that he somehow looked more handsome than before. Du smiled. He playfully asked if that meant he hadn't been handsome before. His sister told him to stop teasing her while pushing his hand away from her hair. After Du left, she quietly wondered if her brother had always been that handsome. Du examined himself in the mirror. His sister had noticed that something about him seemed different. He couldn't help wondering if it was an effect of the Void Immortal Visualization method. The next morning, Du said goodbye to his father and sister before leaving the house for his exam. His father reminded him to be careful on the way. The martial arts assessment was held inside the gymnasium of Liang City No. 1 High School. Du could clearly feel the improvements in his body, proving just how effective the Void Immortal Visualization method truly was. Several students approached him. One of them sarcastically recognized him as the genius who had suspended his studies for 2 years. He mocked Du for ranking dead last before his suspension and asked if he had returned for the Hongji class assessment just to secure the bottom spot again. Du calmly replied that being last was still better than someone who couldn't even pass the academic subjects. The student immediately became furious. Our protagonist smirked and added that if the student couldn't even hear properly, he shouldn't bother participating in the exam. The bully warned him not to push his luck. Du pointed out that he hadn't mentioned anyone's name, so there was no reason to take it personally unless the insult actually applied. A classmate quickly stepped between them and reminded everyone that the assessment was what truly mattered. If a fight broke out and a teacher caught them, the consequences would far outweigh anything they could gain. Before leaving, the bully warned Du that his turn would come soon. Once the group was gone, the classmate panicked and told Du that he was completely finished. However, our MC remained unfazed and declared that he would deal with whatever came his way. His classmate explained that the situation was far more serious than Du realized after being away for 2 years. The arrogant student was Feng Rui, whose second uncle had recently become the school's dean of students. No wonder the guy walked around like he owned the gym. Rumor had it that the dean had already leaked the martial arts assessment questions to Feng Rui. Du realized that he needed to remain cautious in case Feng Rui conspired with the teachers to sabotage him. An announcement echoed throughout the gymnasium. The martial arts assessment consisted of a strength test and a combat duel. Candidates were instructed to form groups of 10 according to their exam numbers, proceed to their designated areas, and complete the strength test first. Du suggested that they get in line. His classmate couldn't believe how carefree he was, despite the trouble waiting for him. The exam followed a last-place elimination system. Every candidate in each group had to strike a large sandbag with their full strength, and the person who recorded the lowest value would be eliminated immediately. His classmate found the system absolutely brutal. Du quietly considered how he should approach the test. He needed to conserve enough strength for the combat duel that would follow. In the end, he decided to rely on speed to secure his victory. Meanwhile, Feng Rui confidently prepared for the test. He boasted that the task would be a piece of cake since strength was one thing he had plenty of. The assessment for the first group began. Feng Rui stepped forward and threw a powerful punch. The tremendous impact sent the massive sandbag reeling backward. The crowd erupted in cheers. Many students were impressed that Feng Rui's punching strength had nearly reached 1,400 jin. One of his followers proudly declared that Feng Rui had taken first place and predicted that someone else would definitely be eliminated this round. However, what happened next left him speechless. Another powerful fist slammed into the sandbag and sent it flying. The entire crowd fell silent in shock. Feng Rui stared in disbelief, unable to understand what had just happened. The students couldn't believe that Du had produced 1,500 jin of punching force, despite having a life intensity of only level 5.1. They wondered which class he belonged to and why his name hadn't even appeared among the grade's top 50 students last year. Du's classmate cheered at the top of his lungs, amazed by how powerful our boy had become. A teacher knew that a life intensity of level 5.1 normally corresponded to a punching force of 1,000 jin. Yet Du had somehow produced 1,500 jin of force. Not even the students of the elite Hongji class were capable of such a feat. How could someone from a regular class be so formidable? He wondered if the answer lay in the boy's martial skill mastery. He immediately requested Chengdu's student file. The file revealed that Du was a regular class student who had taken a 2-year suspension. Before leaving, his martial skill had already reached Tier 1 with 55% mastery. The teacher suspected that it had risen even higher by now. He stared at Du, eager to witness the student's true strength during the afternoon session. Later that afternoon, the school prepared the combat arena. The teacher addressed the students and announced that anyone whose name was called must step onto the stage for a combat duel. Before long, 2 names echoed across the arena: Chengdu and Feng Rui. Among the crowd, one student remarked that despite only recently returning to school, Chengdu had achieved an incredible strength score. He wondered if Du could win the duel as well. Another student argued that real combat depended heavily on martial skill, meaning raw strength alone wouldn't provide much of an advantage. On the stage, Feng Rui gripped his staff and sneered. He warned Du not to think he would get lucky again just because he had won the previous test. Du calmly replied that he hoped Feng Rui could remain that arrogant until the end. Feng Rui attacked first, activating his technique, Martial Arts Stops War. His staff blurred through the air as he unleashed a rapid barrage of strikes. Du raised his sword and met the assault head-on. He parried each attack before slipping through a gap in Feng Rui's defense. In the next instant, his sword struck Rui. Feng Rui silently declared that he would be the one to enter the Hongji class, not Chengdu. He refused to accept defeat. With a furious roar, Feng Rui poured his energy into the staff, causing it to glow brightly. He then lunged forward and unleashed his ultimate technique, a well-deserved reputation. His staff strikes descended with overwhelming speed. Du remained composed, precisely deflecting every blow. Feng Rui screamed for Du to die before smashing his staff downward with tremendous force. The impact cracked the ground, but Du had already dodged aside. Our protagonist realized that fighting real people was completely different from battling monsters inside the crystal space. Feng Rui swung his staff in a powerful, sweeping strike. Suddenly, their energy erupted as their weapons collided. Feng Rui attempted to block, but Du's overwhelming speed tore straight through his defense. Du seized the opening and struck him down with tremendous force. Feng Rui coughed up blood, then, without warning, he pulled out a dagger. Driven by desperation, he charged straight at Du. With one swift motion, Du neutralized the surprise attack and slammed Feng Rui to the ground. Feng Rui crashed onto the stage and lost consciousness. The arena fell completely silent. Then the students erupted in shock. No one had expected Chengdu to win so decisively, and they couldn't understand how he had pulled it off. The teacher ordered the medical team to examine Feng Rui before instructing the next group of students to prepare for their duel. As Feng Rui was carried away on a stretcher, the teacher called for Du to wait. Our MC turned to face him. Du bowed and apologized to Teacher Ling. He explained that he had become anxious during the fight and failed to properly control his strength. Teacher Ling reassured him that injuries were normal during combat duels and merely advised him to be more careful next time. He also praised Du for his hard work and reminded him to stretch properly once he returned home. Du respectfully thanked him. As Du walked away, Teacher Ling realized that Feng Rui had been completely outmatched and hadn't managed to inflict a single injury on his opponent. The only explanation was that Du's martial skill mastery was overwhelmingly superior. He quietly instructed his AI assistant Wang Chai to contact the principal. Later, Du noticed that it was still early. His father and younger sister wouldn't return home for several more hours. He approached his virtual combat capsule. Du couldn't afford to hire a personal sparring partner, but fortunately, the school had provided every student with a combat simulator. By lying inside the capsule, users could seamlessly enter virtual battles against martial artists with similar skill levels. Our MC realized that he was still only ranked bronze because he had focused entirely on fighting monsters inside the crystal space instead of participating in virtual combat. He connected the machine. Feng Rui's miserable defeat would likely provoke retaliation, and his connections might even be used to prevent Du from entering the Hongji class. Du stood silently before the virtual combat capsule. Every battle fought through the capsule was recorded on the Blue Star Youth List. Created specifically for the college entrance exam, it was also known as the Genius List. The rankings measured martial skill strength and were recognized by every ecosphere across the world. Not a single student from the Hongji class had ever made it onto that list. Du climbed inside the capsule. As long as he secured a place on the Blue Star Youth List, his strength alone would guarantee him an opportunity to enter the Hongji class. He logged into the virtual combat system. Since he hadn't used the capsule after obtaining the crystal space, he decided to begin with a warm-up match. A pig mask appeared over his face as his avatar materialized inside the arena. Du looked around, wondering where his opponent was. Without warning, a violet-haired girl wielding 2 daggers dropped from above and ambushed him. She mocked him for reacting far too slowly. The girl launched a surprise attack from above, and Du barely managed to block her strike. She remarked that his reaction speed was decent. Twirling her daggers, she reminded him that this wasn't a school exam. He couldn't expect his opponent to greet him before attacking. Du steadied his sword as blue energy surged around his body. He admitted that he had learned his lesson and promised not to give her another chance to ambush him. The two clashed fiercely. Du followed up with Pale Dragon Point Thrust. The girl immediately recognized the technique. Although it was clearly meant to be a thrust, she was surprised that he had executed it as a sword move. She kicked him backward and explained that the flowing light foreforms shouldn't be restricted to rigid movements. Instead, he needed to dig deeper and understand the true essence of the martial art. Her words made Du realize that sword techniques truly didn't need to be constrained by their original forms. However, he couldn't understand how she had recognized his sword skill so easily. The girl warned him not to lose focus. Her overwhelming strength forced Du back, and he couldn't determine the foundation of the martial art she had learned. Before he could react, she suddenly appeared above him. Du wondered just who this girl was. Calling him careless, she delivered a decisive strike straight to his head. Internally, our boy cursed in frustration and called her a sneaky camper. The match ended with Tisk Tisk Bear losing to the little girl selling nuclear bombs, costing him 10 victory points. As the system teleported him away, Du complained that he could have crushed her with raw power if she hadn't relied on a sneak attack. Still, he reminded himself to think more deeply about the true essence of his martial art. The flowing light sword art consisted of 4 forms, and he had yet to master Pale Dragon Point Thrust. Since it was a thrusting technique, its attributes were similar to an assassin's fighting style. That was when he realized that assassins excelled at sneak attacks, while his own approach was far too direct. Du decided to test his theory through actual combat. He was soon matched against a massive opponent wielding a heavy iron ball and chain. After fighting a stealthy assassin, he was now facing a direct counter to his weapon. He seriously began questioning the game's matchmaking system. With energy flaring around him, Du charged toward his opponent. He believed his martial skill mastery surpassed his opponent's, giving him the advantage. Our MC opened with Painting the Ground as a Prison. Then he immediately followed up with golden drums ringing to the heavens. Furious, the massive man declared that a sword wasn't meant to be used that way. He warned Du not to get ahead of himself just because his martial skill mastery was slightly higher. He swung the enormous iron ball straight toward Du. Our protagonist remained perfectly calm. He unleashed breeze in the forest against the incoming iron ball. The massive weapon was knocked into the ground. Du suddenly appeared behind his opponent, catching him completely off guard. The giant man was stunned. Du had been standing right in front of him only a moment ago, so how had he moved behind him? Du unleashed Pale Dragon Point Thrust. The battle ended in an instant. A system notification confirmed Tisk Tisk Bear's victory over Wang Dechui and awarded him 10 victory points. Du noted with satisfaction that this was the first time he had successfully unleashed Pale Dragon Point Thrust. He began to wonder why the sword was considered a weapon of skill. Being skillful didn't simply mean being dexterous, it meant being ever-changing. A sword could be hard or soft, hidden or visible. It could strike like thunder or flow like a gentle stream. Du realized that as the final form of the flowing light sword art, Pale Dragon Point Thrust was likely meant to teach him the sword's true nature. It could attack openly and honorably, but it could also move silently from the shadows. He concluded that the sword was a weapon without a fixed form. At that moment, a system notification congratulated him as his flowing light sword art improved from Tier 1 with 89% mastery to Tier 1 with 90% mastery. Realizing that actual combat could deepen his understanding, Du eagerly searched for another opponent. With every battle that followed, the system continued announcing improvements to his flowing light sword art. Several hours later, Du became extremely hungry. At that moment, his smart wristband suddenly chimed. A notification congratulated him for entering the top 10,000 of the Blue Star Youth list. Du was stunned. He ordered the system to display the complete details of his rankings, and it immediately complied. The rankings appeared before him. Du ranked 6,219th on the Blue Star Youth list, 654th on the 7th Biosphere Youth list, 55th on the Giant Bear Realm Youth list, 7th on the Purple Cloud District Youth list, and 1st on the Liang City Youth list. Our MC was thrilled. Mastering Pale Dragon Point Thrust had helped him become the #1 youth in all of Liang City. With this achievement, Du happily realized that his place in the Hongji class was finally secured. The next day, Liang City #1 High School was unusually quiet. Du was walking across campus with his backpack when someone suddenly called out to him. The man was Feng Liguo, the dean of students at Liang City #1 High School and Feng Rui's second uncle. He angrily demanded to know where Du's manners were and scolded him for failing to greet a teacher. Du reluctantly greeted him. At the same time, he wondered who this man was and what the armband around his arm meant. Ligo claimed that he was inspecting the students' grooming and appearance for the new semester. He aggressively questioned Du about what he was wearing, only for Du to point out that it was the school uniform. The surrounding students struggled to hold back their laughter. One student remarked that Du was about to be in serious trouble. Feng Rui still hadn't been discharged from the hospital, so his second uncle would definitely seek revenge. Others spread rumors that Du had only won the duel by using banned drugs and deserved whatever was coming to him. However, some students quietly believed that Du was truly formidable. Li Guo swung his disciplinary stick at Du, but our protagonist easily dodged it. Furious, Li Guo accused him of refusing to cooperate. Du questioned the accusation and calmly stated that he had followed every school regulation. Enraged that a student dared to talk back to him, Li Guo swung the stick again. Du easily caught it. Li Guo threatened to report him to the principal and have him expelled for disobeying school discipline and contradicting a teacher. Suddenly, a voice asked who was looking for him. Two men had arrived. One was Li Muliang, the principal of Liang City #1 High School. The other was Wang Anquan, the mayor of Liang City. Li Guo hurried toward them and attempted to report Chen Du. However, Principal Li silenced him with a dismissive wave. He approached Du and asked if he was Chen Du. Our MC calmly confirmed his identity. Principal Li explained that they had come specifically to meet him before introducing Mayor Wang. Du politely greeted them and asked why they had come. Mayor Wang laughed and explained that Du had ranked first on the Liang City Youth list and entered the top 10,000 of the Blue Star Youth list. Naturally, he wanted to see exactly what kind of person had achieved such a feat. The surrounding students were stunned. Even Li Guo hadn't expected Du to enter the top 10,000 of the Blue Star Youth list. The crowd was stunned to learn that Du ranked among the top 10,000 on the Blue Star Youth list. They marveled at his strength, realizing that he clearly hadn't needed any drugs to defeat Feng Rui. His place in the Hongji class was now practically guaranteed. The mayor and principal invited Du to join them in the meeting room because they had something important to discuss with him. Afterward, he would report directly to the Hongji class. Principal Lee added that Teacher Ling had personally insisted on Du's immediate transfer. At the meeting room, inside, Liu Bo and Moray greeted the mayor and the principal. Liu Bo was the second-ranked senior on the Liang City youth list, while Moray belonged to Hongji class number 1. The three students exchanged glances but didn't recognize one another, so they simply bowed politely. Inside the meeting room, the mayor explained that the 100 cities under the Purple Cloud District's jurisdiction were preparing a competition for high school seniors. Each city would send its top 3 high school students based on their martial arts rankings as of 6 o'clock the previous evening. Led by a martial artist above level 15, the students would travel to High City number 1 high school and compete in the 3-day 100 Cities Hegemony tournament. The final top 10 contestants would receive different bonus rewards. The prizes started at 100,000 yuan in cash and included at least 10 bonus points for the college entrance exam. The mayor asked if they were willing to participate. Moray questioned why a competition based on martial arts rankings wouldn't be held through virtual combat. The mayor explained that the district leaders had unanimously agreed that real combat was more effective. Martial artists would be stationed at the venue to ensure everyone's safety, while all participants would wear special suits that placed them at the same life intensity. Du silently calculated his chances. His current martial skill mastery already placed him among the district's top 20. With the rate at which he improved each day, securing a place in the top 3 should be easy. The mayor added that even if they failed to reach the top 10, the tournament would still allow them to measure themselves against their peers. Because of that, they shouldn't place too much pressure on themselves. Du immediately agreed to participate. Liu Bo and Moray quickly followed his lead. The mayor praised their youthful courage. He then instructed them to return to class and promised to notify them once the departure time was confirmed. As Du left, he resolved to place among the top 3 in the 100 Cities War. If he won enough prize money, his parents would no longer have to work themselves to exhaustion every day. No matter what it took, our protagonist was determined to reach the top 3. Du stopped in front of his new classroom. Unlike his previous class, the desks and chairs in the Hongji class weren't marked with student names. For the time being, he decided to sit wherever he wanted. The moment he sat down, someone ordered him to get lost and demanded to know what made him worthy of sitting there. The student was Peng Hu, the 10th-ranked member of the Hongji class. Du stood up and faced him. Our protagonist wondered what era this guy thought he was living in to still be trying such outdated school bully tactics. Suddenly, Moray stepped between them and explained that Du was a new student who didn't know the class rules yet. Du was shocked that Moray had approached without making a single sound. He immediately realized that Moray's life intensity was at least 2 levels higher than his own. Peng Hu backed down and told Du that he was lucky. For Moret's sake, he would let him off this time. Moret welcomed Du and explained that the strength hierarchy of the Hongji class was represented by the seat numbers. During the monthly seat ranking battle, the students fought in real combat to determine their positions. Those who ranked in the bottom 10 would be forced to stand during every class for the following month. Du was surprised by just how fierce the competition within the class was. Moray added that since it was already the beginning of the month, the rankings had been decided. Du would need to challenge another student if he wanted to claim a numbered seat. Du asked whether the rankings affected anything besides the right to sit down. The answer would determine exactly how much strength he needed to reveal during the challenge. Moray replied that the higher his rank, the better his treatment would be. The reason was simple. A higher ranking provided better resource subsidies for the entire month. After hearing that, Du decided the challenge was worth taking. For the sake of those resources, he would secure the highest rank possible. A few minutes later, Teacher Ling announced the beginning of class and instructed everyone to proceed to the combat room. The students soon gathered inside the combat room. Teacher Ling explained that a challenger could issue up to 3 challenges. Their seat number would then be assigned based on their combat performance. Du raised his hand and announced that he wanted to challenge number 10. Teacher Ling was taken aback. The students were stunned that the newcomer had immediately targeted a top 10 position. Du normally appeared honest and meek, but they began to wonder if he was actually just insanely arrogant. Teacher Ling knew that Chen Du possessed outstanding martial skill mastery. However, his life intensity was far below that of the other Hongji class students. That difference alone should have made him completely unqualified to challenge the top 10. Meanwhile, Du was only focused on the fact that the resource subsidy for 10th place was 50% higher than the subsidy for 11th place. That alone made the challenge worthwhile. Peng Hu laughed and mocked Du for acting so boldly on his very first day. He warned our MC not to start crying after getting beaten up. Du simply asked if he was the student ranked 10th. Peng Hu confirmed it and told Du to consider himself unlucky. Teacher Ling ordered Peng Hu to put on his protective equipment and enter the arena. He had originally believed Du was a steady and sensible student. He hadn't expected the boy to be so eager to prove himself. However, he decided that this wasn't necessarily a bad thing. Allowing Du to taste a little bitterness could also serve as a form of tempering. Penghu entered the arena carrying his massive hammer. Teacher Ling officially announced the start of the match. Penghu dared Du to prepare himself, claiming that he would soon be begging for mercy. As his energy flared around him, Du calmly replied that they would see about that. Penghu swung his massive hammer. He mocked Du for reacting far too slowly. The students immediately noticed the difference in their speed. Du's life intensity was a full level lower than Penghu's, convincing them that the match was already over and Du was about to lose. Teacher Ling observed that Du's life intensity had reached level 5.2. He was stunned because it had only been level 5.1 the previous day. How could Du have improved so quickly? Penghu laughed and declared that Du had already lost. He brought his hammer down with all his strength. However, his confident expression suddenly vanished. Du had appeared directly in front of him. Smirking, our protagonist seized the opening and unleashed a counterattack. His strike sent Penghu flying through the air. Penghu crashed to the ground, completely defeated. Before Du could swing again, Teacher Ling stepped forward and caught his wrist. Recognizing the move, he asked if Du had just used Pale Dragon Point Thrust. He was shocked that Du's martial art had already reached Tier 1 Perfect. Du replied that he had simply gotten lucky and achieved a breakthrough the previous night. Teacher Ling found it difficult to believe that anyone could reach 90% mastery overnight. Du looked at him in confusion. Teacher Ling declared Chengdu the winner. The entire class was stunned. Du had defeated someone a full level above him with a single strike. Even Moray hadn't expected him to be a late-blooming genius. Teacher Ling announced that Du had secured seat number 10 and asked if he wanted to challenge someone ranked even higher. Du declined. Since the resource subsidy wouldn't increase by much, conserving his strength was the smarter choice. Moray approached Du and asked to add him on WeChat so they could stay in contact. The other students immediately began making the same request. Du reluctantly agreed. Penghu suddenly grabbed Du's leg and begged him for forgiveness. Our MC couldn't help thinking that Penghu certainly knew when to bow his head and when to stand tall. Teacher Ling silently watched the scene. Then he instructed Du to come to his office after school. Later, they arrived at the principal's office. Teacher Ling immediately asked if any early special admission slots were still available at Mount Everest Martial Arts University and Mount Tai Martial Arts University. The principal invited them to sit and asked why Ling was suddenly interested. Teacher Ling explained that he wanted Du to attempt the early special admission path. The principal pointed out that both institutions ranked among the 8 most prestigious universities. Applicants needed to possess at least Tier 1 perfect martial skill mastery. Although Du was only 1% away, crossing that final threshold was incredibly difficult. Teacher Ling dismissed his concern and asked him to let Du test his abilities using the instrument inside the office. The principal sighed at Ling's persistence. The principal pointed toward the testing instrument and explained that its maximum limit was Tier 1 high stage, making it perfect for assessing students. Teacher Ling pushed Du forward and instructed him to recreate the exact strike he had used during the seat-ranking battle. Du stepped forward. Then he focused his mind. He drew his sword and prepared to attack. Pale Dragon Point Thrust erupted from his blade. The testing dummy instantly exploded into pieces. The principal stared in shock. Even Teacher Ling was astonished, explaining that Du had only been at Tier 1 high stage the previous afternoon. Somehow, he had broken through to Tier 1 perfect overnight. Du awkwardly apologized for destroying the testing instrument. Teacher Ling eagerly told the principal that Du was an absolute combat genius who possessed a rare and precious instinct for victory. In all his years of teaching, Ling had never encountered a student with such seasoned judgment and sharp intuition in combat. It was almost as if Du had survived countless life-and-death battles. Our protagonist shuddered at how frighteningly accurate his teacher's intuition was. The principal agreed. He declared Du an extraordinary martial arts genius who needed to be prioritized for development, immediately granting him the training resources of seat number 1. The principal would personally handle the early special admission process, but Du needed to place among the top 3 in the 100 Cities Hegemony tournament. If he did, his admission would be guaranteed. Du raised his hand and asked what early special admission meant. Teacher Ling explained that entering one of the top 8 universities through the regular college entrance exam required a life intensity of at least level 6.5. With Du's current life intensity, reaching that standard before the exam would be difficult. However, the special admission path only required his martial skill mastery to reach Tier 1 perfect 1 month before the college entrance exam. The principal added that teachers from Mount Everest Martial Arts University and Mount Tai Martial Arts University would visit the school immediately after the tournament to personally assess Du. Du asked if passing the early special admission for those two schools would still allow him to take the college entrance exam and apply to other martial arts universities. Teacher Ling asked if he already had another university in mind. Du answered that he wanted to attend Mount Huang Martial Arts University. After all, the resources offered by all 8 prestigious universities were practically the same. Teacher Ling was surprised by the intensity of Du's reaction. 6 years earlier, the Cloud Thunder district of Lake West City had suffered a surprise attack from the giant race. Lake West City's defense corps and reinforcements from the surrounding cities had arrived in time to provide support. However, their limited manpower still resulted in hundreds of thousands of deaths. Du simply wanted his family to live safely and peacefully. If Liang City ever suffered a similar crisis, he wanted to be close enough to rush back and save them immediately. Teacher Ling was surprised. People who thought that way had usually experienced the destruction of their families firsthand. He admired Du for possessing such awareness at a young age, despite still having a complete family. Teacher Ling concluded that our boy was absolutely capable of shouldering a great responsibility. Du asked if he could treat those two universities as a safety net in case he failed to enter Mount Huang Martial Arts University. The principal explained that he couldn't. Once Du passed the early special admission, he would be required to sign a binding contract with the chosen school. Teacher Ling added that placing in the 100 Cities Hegemony tournament next month would practically guarantee admission to either university. Through the early special admission route, his required college entrance exam score could also be lowered by another 100 points. Without early special admission, Du would need to raise his life intensity to level 6.5, while his required exam score could only be reduced by a maximum of 30 points. Based on his experience, Teacher Ling strongly advised Du not to gamble with his future. Du thanked them both and promised to consider the decision carefully. Du left the school while thinking about early special admission. The assessment was still more than a month away and would take place immediately after the 100 Cities Hegemony tournament. From that day until the college entrance exam, he decided to live inside the exclusive martial arts room provided by the school. That way, he could focus entirely on increasing his strength. During that time, he also planned to search for medicine that could accelerate the growth of his life intensity. He was confident that the Technology Martial Palace would have exactly what he needed. 3 supreme forces protected the future and hope of the entire high martial civilization. The Extreme Martial Palace fought against alien civilizations, the Technology Martial Palace focused on improving humanity's overall strength, and the Martial Artist Alliance maintained public order. Du remembered that Durags, the founder of the Technology Martial Palace, was hailed as the second strongest person in their civilization. Although his strength was inferior to Yan's, no one could overlook his enormous contributions to humanity's development. A receptionist welcomed Du, and he requested 3 boxes of Thunder Chi blood pills. The receptionist was surprised by his request. She explained that the medicine couldn't be purchased directly because buyers needed to pass an endurance test first. She then asked him to follow her. Du knew that the Thunder Chi blood pill was among the best medicines available to ordinary people before becoming martial artists. However, it carried serious risks because its medicinal power transformed into thunder that surged through the user's meridians. If the user failed to maintain complete concentration for 30 minutes, the energy would become chaotic and endanger their life. Because of this, everyone needed to pass an endurance test before purchasing the pills. The receptionist led him into a testing room and asked if he was ready for her to press the start button. Du placed his hand on the testing device. He confirmed that he was ready. The receptionist pressed the button. As the test continued, her expression gradually changed to complete shock. After Du left, the receptionist reported that the testing machine for the Thunder Chi blood pills appeared to be broken. After purchasing the medicine, Du returned to his private martial arts room at school and reviewed the instructions. One treatment cycle lasted 10 consecutive days, with a maximum dosage of 3 pills taken simultaneously. Taking 3 pills at once caused 5 times the pain of a single pill, and the effects lasted for 30 minutes. Furthermore, after 3 to 5 cycles, the body would develop antibodies, gradually weakening the medicine's effectiveness. He recalled that the endurance test at the store had only simulated 50% of the pain caused by a single pill. To him, that had been a piece of cake. Holding 3 pills, he calculated that taking them together would cause 10 times the pain he had experienced during the test. Even so, he believed he could handle it. Du swallowed all 3 pills. Violent electrical currents immediately surged throughout his body as intense pain assaulted him from every direction. Even then, our protagonist smiled and asked if that was all the pills could do. Du breathed a sigh of relief. A system notification congratulated him as his life intensity increased from level 5.2 to level 5.3. He was pleased to see that he had taken another step toward level 6.5. As long as his life intensity continued increasing at this rate, he could confidently reject the early special admission path. However, his current medicine supply would only last 10 days instead of the full month he had originally planned. Based on the remaining balance on his card, he could only sustain this training method for 55 days. Du concluded that he needed to fight his way into the top 2 of the 100 Cities Hegemony tournament. Only then could he secure enough money to continue developing his strength. The severe side effects of using the Thunder Chi blood pills for the first time temporarily left him unable to move. Since his physical body was exhausted, he decided to enter the crystal space and focus on improving his mental power instead. After having enough rest, Du spent the entire night slaughtering green firefly giants inside the crystal space. Although he failed to eliminate them all, his mental power still improved considerably. As he recalled the battle, Du remembered that the school's resource subsidy had finally arrived. His mood immediately brightened, and he began looking forward to the day's classes. Moments later, we see Yadi, a member of the Martial Artist Alliance and an instructor for the Hongji class, welcoming the students. She announced that today's lesson would cover an advanced combat method known as mental power attachment. This special mental power course was exclusively reserved for the Hongji class and could only be studied by students with Tier 2 mental power. Du also noticed that the instructor's life intensity exceeded level 15. Dai explained that mastering higher-level martial arts allowed the body to develop greater physical strength. However, properly controlling mental power allowed a martial artist to achieve twice the result with half the effort. Normally, a person's physical power was distributed throughout their entire body. Through mental power attachment, a martial artist could concentrate that scattered strength into a single point, greatly increasing their explosive power. Teacher Dai defined mental power attachment as making every strand of strength within the body fulfill its intended purpose. Du noticed that his classmates looked completely unsurprised. He realized that they had probably studied and mastered the technique in advance. Teacher Dai reminded everyone that mental power below Tier 10 could only mobilize a limited amount of physical strength. Because of that, she didn't recommend spending too much time researching the technique. Anyone seeking a high score on the college entrance exam should still prioritize increasing their life intensity. Then she announced that she would test their mental power and instructed every student to stand. Teacher Dai took out a short flute and explained that she would play the Song of Exhaustion to measure their exact mental power. She hoped their results would surpass those from the previous semester. Turning to Du, she told him that he could choose not to participate because the results wouldn't affect his college entrance exam score. Du was surprised. Our protagonist realized that she believed he only possessed Tier 1 mental power. She expected him to collapse as soon as the flute began playing and wanted to spare him the embarrassment. However, Du firmly declared that he would participate. Teacher Dai accepted his decision. But wait a minute, look at her lip. It's getting bigger. Anyway, she silently sighed at how competitive young people could be. Mental power wasn't something that could be improved easily. Even the other Hongji class students could only be considered clumsy birds who had started training earlier. Since Ling Yun valued Du so highly, she decided to keep him behind for private counseling after he failed the test. Raising the flute, she instructed the class to focus and resist with all their strength. Her Song of Exhaustion would make both their bodies and minds feel completely drained. The students answered in unison. Dai began playing the flute, and Du watched in awe. A few seconds later, a strange creature gradually formed in front of him. Du was startled when the figure suddenly charged. He narrowly avoided its first attack before blocking a powerful kick. Our MC immediately recognized the technique as mental-style physical hypnosis. Despite the crushing pressure, he remained calm. Teacher Dai was surprised to see Du enduring the technique without even frowning. The test was basically effortless for him. She realized that his mental power was far stronger than she had initially expected. Wanting to discover his limits, she increased the mental power by another level. The pressure intensified. Several students immediately collapsed from exhaustion, unable to endure any longer. Just as Teacher Dai expected, most of the class couldn't hold on. She turned her attention toward Du, wondering how he was doing. To her surprise, he was still standing. The students were stunned that Du could continue. As the energy intensified, they remembered that his family was too poor to afford mental power resources. This was the first time they had encountered someone with extraordinary talent in both martial arts and mental power. Pang Hu had given up early, but he actually felt relieved. The stronger Du proved himself to be, the more it showed that Pang Hu wasn't weak and that his defeat the previous day had been completely justified. The other students were equally shocked. Teacher Dai realized that Du possessed exceptional talent in both martial arts and mental power. If he had come from a different background, he could have easily attempted to enter the 3 top-tier universities. Even Moray had collapsed at level 6, yet Du had endured level 7. Without hesitation, Teacher Dai raised the mental power to level 8. Du immediately felt the energy around him shift. A massive figure manifested before him, radiating a terrifying aura. It charged toward him and unleashed a relentless barrage of attacks. Du felt every strike grow increasingly heavier. He began gasping for breath. His body was being dragged toward the ground, but he stubbornly resisted the urge to collapse. At that moment, Teacher Dai realized that the mental power duel was exhausting both his mind and body. She marveled at how Du's mental power actually surpassed his life intensity, something she considered a miracle. Combined with his exceptional martial arts talent, he could potentially develop resistance against mental power and use his physical strength to crush his enemies. In her eyes, Du was the perfect warrior to counter the Big Eye civilization. Later, inside the principal's office, someone was stunned to learn that Du possessed exceptional talent in both martial arts and mental power. Teacher Dai confirmed that she had personally verified both talents during class. Teacher Ling explained that he had just spoken with Du about his current situation. He confidently declared that the boy had the potential to become a level 20 martial artist, also known as a soaring martial artist. The principal stated that soaring martial artists were chosen individuals. Sending a genius like Du to one of the 8 prestigious universities would simply waste his potential. He believed Du should aim for one of the 3 top-tier martial arts universities, which exclusively recruited students capable of becoming soaring martial artists. He informed Teacher Ling that Black Dragon Martial Arts University, one of those 3 top-tier institutions, would conduct its freshman selection in Cyber City after the 100 Cities Hegemony Tournament. He instructed Ling to persuade Du to participate. Teacher Ling accepted the principal's orders. Du arrived at the office. Teacher Ling asked if he knew anything about Black Dragon Martial Arts University. Du only knew that it was one of the 3 top-tier universities. Ling explained that the top-tier universities didn't recruit students through the standard college entrance exam. Instead, they personally selected geniuses with the potential to break through and become soaring martial artists. Martial artists at that level achieved a state of transcendent detachment. Qualifying for the path toward becoming a soaring martial artist required a life intensity of 9.9 and martial skill mastery at Tier 1 mid-stage. However, only 50% of high school students and older martial artists ever reached Tier 1 mid-stage or higher. Although Chi Blood medicine could increase life intensity, most families couldn't afford it. Many couldn't even purchase basic Chi Blood milk. By the time they finally earned enough money, they had already missed the prime age for training. After considering his options, Du decided to attempt Black Dragon Martial Arts University's selection. Deep down, however, he was reluctant to leave his family. He knew that such a departure could potentially separate them forever. Teacher Ling encouraged him. With Du's current ability, securing early special admission into one of the 8 prestigious universities was practically guaranteed. He advised him to treat those schools as a safety net, while aiming higher for Black Dragon Martial Arts University and a far greater future. However, the 100 Cities Hegemony Tournament was only 1 month away. They needed to focus on that competition before worrying about anything else. The next morning, Du ate breakfast with his family. His younger sister noticed that his entire presence had changed. His physique looked better, and something about him seemed far more mysterious and unfathomable than before. During the meal, Du informed his parents and sister that he planned to begin living at school that day. He needed to focus entirely on increasing his strength for the upcoming 100 Cities Hegemony Tournament. His mother immediately became worried. She reminded him to protect his health and avoid pushing himself too hard. Meanwhile, his sister wondered if the school could still arrange a dormitory for him, since boarding accommodations were normally assigned before the semester began. Du reassured them. He explained that the school had allocated considerable resources to support him and prevent his previous health problems from returning. He added that every Hongji class student received a private martial arts room with a specialized resting area, allowing him to train and sleep in the same place. His father fully supported the decision. He encouraged Du to maintain his determination and contact them whenever he needed anything. He told his son to keep charging forward without hesitation. After finishing his meal, Du announced that he was leaving for school. His family wished him well and reminded him to take care of himself. Before he left, they encouraged him to work hard and claim first place. Sprinting through the school halls, Du received a massive supply of training resources. These included 90 bags of Chi Blood milk, 30 Chi Blood pills, and 4 packs of perfect Chi Blood powder. The school had already placed everything inside his private martial arts room. After calculating that the resources were worth at least 50,000 credits, Du concluded that martial arts was truly a sport for the wealthy. He tapped the control panel with the back of his hand. Du waited as the door slowly opened. He entered the room and locked himself inside. Our protagonist instructed Little Bear to increase the gravity to 5 times the normal level. Little Bear immediately complied. The resulting pressure felt like 15 adult elephants pressing down on his body. Instead of feeling intimidated, Du found the challenge interesting. The fourth round of training began, and Du faced a robotic opponent inside the room. The machine threw a heavy punch, which Du blocked with his sword. In a high-gravity environment, even the slightest mistake when exerting force could tear his muscles or damage his bones. This meant that he couldn't afford to take the robot's attacks head-on. When the crushing weight became too difficult to endure, Du decided to redirect the trajectory of its attacks instead. The robot analyzed his performance and reported an evasion efficiency of 87% alongside excessively high energy consumption. It advised him to eliminate unnecessary movements. The machine launched synchronized attacks at both his upper and lower body, completely sealing off his normal escape routes. Since he couldn't dodge, Du decided to make the machine experience the doubled gravity as well. He leaped into the air and unleashed a powerful strike. The robot was forced down onto one knee. It suddenly activated its last resort mode. Du stared in disbelief at the blatant cheat as the machine's body stretched unnaturally to attack him. The robot tackled him to the ground, forcing Du to immediately order Little Bear to deactivate the gravity field. Our MC realized that he had reached his physical limit. He decided to relax his body before using the Void Immortal visualization method to strengthen his mental power. Du began meditating, allowing his consciousness to drift into another world. An ominous dark figure with glowing red eyes appeared before him. Ignoring it, Du focused entirely on accumulating mental power experience. Moments later, his mental power increased by 0.3. After finishing his training, Du tried to stand, only to realize that his leg had fallen asleep. Since he was mentally exhausted and his body still hadn't recovered, he tossed a pill into his mouth. He collapsed onto the floor and decided to sleep right there. The moment Du closed his eyes, he entered the crystal space to refine his martial arts skills. The ground began to tremble violently. Du faced the green firefly giants, enemies he had failed to defeat last time because he didn't fully understand their abilities. This time, he was determined to win. Surrounded by a blue aura, he rested his sword on his shoulder and prepared for battle. Du had discovered that the green patches covering their bodies weren't curse marks or birthmarks. They were actually sources of healing energy. He struck one of the giants directly on its green patch. Besides their healing abilities, the green firefly giants only possessed ridiculously thick health bars and no other special powers. As long as he destroyed their green patches first, defeating them would become much easier. Du also noticed that training under increased gravity had greatly improved his control over his body in a normal environment. He effortlessly avoided a giant's attack. Spotting an opening, he brought his sword down with tremendous force. The giant collapsed. Du stood victoriously while the remaining enemies towered around him. Our boy enjoyed the weightless sensation and looked forward to continuing his gravity training after waking up. He was now confident that this training method would secure him a place among the top 3 in the 100 Cities Hegemony tournament. At High City. The day of the highly anticipated 100 Cities Hegemony tournament had finally arrived. Du arrived at a luxurious hotel for the first time. Teacher Ling told him to keep up before heading inside. Our protagonist soon noticed an argument unfolding at the front desk. A man angrily demanded to know why he wasn't being allowed to sign in. The man was Wu Zhang, a participant from Lu City. He slammed his hand against the counter and demanded an explanation, insisting that he had arrived at the designated time. The receptionist trembled beneath the pressure of his anger. Du noticed Wu Zhang drawing his sword and wondered if the man seriously intended to hurt someone inside the hotel. Du sensed Wu Zhang's sword intent and judged that the man's martial skill mastery was probably no lower than his own. Liu Bo and Moray were stunned to hear that Zhang was so powerful. A girl named Zhou Xiaogu, a member of High City's participating team, ordered someone to deal with the situation. She allowed Wu Zhang to sign in, but declared that his absent teammates would be treated as having forfeited. The crowd immediately erupted with excitement upon seeing the Sea Princess. One spectator remarked that she was even more beautiful in person than in her pictures. Du wondered who she was. Moray immediately advised him to give up if he was interested in her. He explained that Zhou Xiaogu, famously known as the Sea Princess, was the daughter of the principal of High City No. 1 High School. Whether it was power, wealth, reputation, or personal talent, she stood at the top in every category. She was considered a favored daughter of heaven, so Moray concluded that Du had absolutely no chance. However, Du realized that he had seen her face somewhere before. It soon clicked. She was the sneaky camper who had ambushed him in virtual combat, the little girl selling nuclear bombs. Du had assumed her appearance was randomly generated by the system. To his surprise, she looked exactly the same and was just as beautiful in real life. Our protagonist hadn't expected to meet an online acquaintance in person. Fortunately, she had no way of recognizing him. He remembered that her martial skill mastery had been one step ahead of his, having already reached Tier 1 Perfect at the time. That only made Du even more certain that participating in the 100 Cities Hegemony Tournament had been the right decision. They gathered inside room 301. Teacher Ling explained that the team leader had announced a change to the rules. Unlike in previous years, this tournament would include an additional badge snatch battle before the elimination round. Du asked for the exact details of the new rule. Ling explained that the 100 Cities Hegemony Tournament would last 3 days and consist of 3 competitive rounds. The first round would begin the following day and take place inside a forest venue. Within a strict 13-hour time limit, each team needed to obtain specific badges marked with the characters High and Martial. After obtaining the badges, the participants needed to report to the finish line. The number of competitors who advanced would depend on how many members of each team successfully arrived. Du asked how many badges were hidden throughout the venue. Teacher Ling revealed that there were exactly 50 High badges and 50 Martial badges. This meant that only 50 teams could advance, eliminating at least half of the competitors on the very first day. The second round would become a brutal one-on-one elimination tournament with barely any time to rest between matches. All 150 remaining competitors would fight within a single day until only the 10 strongest remained for the third and final round. Although the matchups would be random, the system would prevent teammates from being matched against each other. Internally, Mireille and Liu Bo felt relieved that they wouldn't have to face a freak like Du. Teacher Ling then explained that the third round finals were also called the Top 10 Battle. Reaching that stage already counted as a major victory because all 10 finalists would receive bonus exam points and cash rewards. He added that reaching the top 3 would depend heavily on each competitor's condition. They would endure 3 straight days of fighting, minimal rest, and a high risk of injury. The final champion might not be the strongest in a single battle, but they would undoubtedly possess the greatest overall strength. Teacher Ling emphasized one final point. Killing was strictly forbidden, both during the competition and in the outside world. Their true enemies were the alien civilizations, so they must never turn their blades against their fellow humans. The 3 students were taken aback by his words. Ling continued, explaining that they would enter the tournament wearing special suits that equalized everyone's life intensity. The team leaders would also secretly enter the venue to protect them. However, he warned them not to force him to intervene, because doing so would result in their immediate elimination. With a smile, he told them that everything tomorrow would depend on their own abilities. Ling encouraged them to believe in themselves because they were the best. Du and his teammates confidently answered in unison. The next day, the tournament officially began at High City No. 1 High School. After entering the venue, Du realized that they were about to be transported into a forest. Zhou Cheng, the principal of High City No. 1 High School and one of the organizers of the 100 Cities Hegemony Tournament, welcomed all the participants. He pointed toward the massive gate and explained that an entire forest existed beyond it. The special environment was a dimensional rift known as a spirit realm, created hundreds of years earlier when the 9 great planets collided. This particular place was the lowest difficulty Level 1 spirit realm, known as the Forest Wolf Woods. Du was surprised. Spirit realms were mysterious spaces filled with monsters but completely devoid of humans. Principal Zhou assured everyone that the realm was stable. Its safety had been personally certified by Ryan, the 3rd strongest fighter in the world and founder of the Martial Artist Alliance. Even so, he reminded the students that the trial still carried a risk of death and urged them to prioritize their own safety. Principal Zhou then warned Wu Zhang that he couldn't act alone simply because he had arrived without his teammates. He added that suitable companions would be assigned to Wu Zhang based on his level. Zhang clicked his tongue in annoyance. Du couldn't help wondering why Wu Zhang seemed unhappy with absolutely everyone. Principal Zhou completed the iris authentication. He instructed everyone to prepare to enter the Forest Wolf Woods. In response, the massive gate slowly opened. The participants stepped inside. Principal Zhou explained that the spirit realm's true location was an absolute secret. The magic array connected to the Forest Wolf Woods was an emergency measure created by their predecessors. If the dimensional rift ever closed, those trapped inside could use the array to teleport back out. A system announcement instructed everyone to stand within the magic array. Each team would be simultaneously teleported to a random starting point somewhere inside the Forest Wolf Woods. The map contained 300 possible badge locations, but only 100 of those markers actually held badges. The remaining 200 were decoys. The magic array illuminated as it prepared to activate. Then, a pillar of light erupted around them, inside the Forest Wolf Woods. Du opened his eyes after the blinding light faded. Finding himself surrounded by dense trees, he wondered if this was the spirit realm. Moray examined the digital map and asked which marked location they should investigate first. Du checked his own screen and pointed out a marker near their starting position. He suggested heading there to determine whether it held a real badge or was merely a decoy. His teammates agreed. The group soon discovered a stone pillar. To test it, they threw a stone at its screen. The display illuminated and revealed the character Hi. Du pressed the screen and successfully claimed the badge. He admitted that he had expected every marker near the starting point to be fake, so finding a real badge was a pleasant surprise. Liu Bo smiled at their good fortune and suggested choosing their next target. Suddenly, Du sensed danger. He shouted for Liu Bo to watch out. 2 arrows tore through the air and pierced the ground directly in front of them. Someone remarked that another team had arrived much faster than expected. The Kun City team blocked their path. They demanded that the Liang City team hand over their badges immediately if they did not want to be eliminated. Du knew that Kun City was far more developed than Liang City. Generally speaking, larger cities produced much stronger students. Meanwhile, in the spectator area of High City No. 1 High School's auditorium, the audience noticed that some teams had already run into each other. They were surprised by how quickly it happened, considering it had not even been 10 minutes since the students entered. Someone guessed that the 2 teams must have started close to each other and chosen the same destination. In the stands, Kun City's principal, Cao Yan, laughed and offered to pay for his old friend and his students' plane tickets back to Liang City. Principal Li could only lament their rotten luck in running into Cao Yan's school in the very first round. Du smiled and asked if they seriously thought they could eliminate his entire team by themselves. The opposing captain advised him to stop wasting time and hand over the badge. Du countered by asking whether he truly believed that someone from a large city was automatically stronger than someone from a small one. The man tightened his grip on his spear. He declared that Du's team would become the first team eliminated from the competition. Li Yuan introduced himself and boasted that he was destined to become the Spear King of Kun City. He charged straight at Du. Moret and Bo challenged him to come and try. Du stepped forward and told his teammates to leave everything to him. Energy swirled around our protagonist as he declared that he would handle all 3 opponents alone. He activated Comet Spear Art 3rd Stance, boiling the loot and burning the crane. The entire Kun City team leaped into the air and attacked simultaneously. Yuan shouted that Du did not know the immensity of heaven and earth, yet Du blocked all 3 attacks by himself, without moving a single inch. Yuan was stunned that Du had not been pushed back despite taking their combined attack head-on with nothing but a sword. He tightened his grip on his weapon as he realized that even though they all had a level 5 life intensity, Du was clearly stronger. During the clash, Du determined that Li Yuan's martial arts had reached the limit of Tier 1 high stage, which explained his arrogance. However, his other 2 teammates lagged far behind. Du activated mental power attachment. He tightened his grip on his sword. Our MC followed up with flowing light sword art, first stance painting the ground as a prison. A massive wave of blue energy swept forward. Yuan's eyes widened as his 2 teammates were sent flying. Yuan could barely remain standing, while the other 2 were instantly knocked unconscious. He felt as though Du's sword was even heavier than his spear. Cold sweat rolled down his face as he wondered just how much strength Du possessed. Du decided to take down the strongest opponent first. He activated Flowing Light Sword Art, 2nd Stance, Golden Drums. But before our protagonist could unleash the attack, a single finger stopped his sword. Lin Bei suddenly appeared and praised the incredible power behind the sword strike. Still trembling, Yuan insisted to teacher Lin Bei that he could continue fighting. However, Lin Bei told him that he had already lost. Since Du's attack had managed to tear his teammates' clothes, its power had already reached the level of someone with a level 7 life intensity. Even if Yuan had blocked the first strike, he would never have survived the second. With that, Lin Bei told his team that it was time to leave. Internally, Lin Bei recognized that Du's talent surpassed even Li Yuan's. This boy would definitely become a force to be reckoned with in the future. Smirking, Ling watched everything from behind a tree. Lin Bei bid farewell to Ling Yun and said that he looked forward to seeing his student's performance in the finals. Yuan asked for Du's name. He admitted that he rarely submitted to anyone, but Du was the exception. Du boldly declared that the name of the first-place winner would be Chen Du. After watching that complete reversal, Principal Li laughed and thanked Cao Yan for generously handing them the victory. He then returned Cao's earlier mockery by offering to book his plane ticket home that very night. Mayor Ku remarked that he had not expected so many students to reach Tier 1 perfect martial arts this year. Including Du from Liang City's team, there should have already been 4. However, Zhou corrected him, stating that there were only 3. Meanwhile, some spectators noticed that the Liang City team already possessed 2 badges. Another spectator questioned why they were heading toward the moon mark representing the exit after collecting only 1 additional badge. Leaving now would mean immediate elimination. Inside Forest Wolf Woods, Moret asked Du if he seriously planned to take down Wu Zhang there. Du reasoned that with his strength, obtaining 2 badges would not be difficult. His teammates silently agreed with him. Our MC then revealed that he wanted to win the championship. Du explained that first place might only mean prestige to someone like Wu Zhang. While our boy could not care less about prestige, he desperately needed the 1 million prize money just to survive. Bo and Moret were left speechless by his painfully practical motivation. Du offered to explain his plan so they could understand. The seeded competitors were Zhou Xiaogu and Kujong Tian from High City, along with Wu Zhang from Liu City. Since the High City team had two powerful fighters, taking them down was practically impossible. Ambushing Wu Zhang gave them a far greater chance of winning. Bo questioned whether doing so would simply help the High City team eliminate one of its greatest rivals. Du disagreed. He explained that if he failed to eliminate Wu Zhang now, he might not even make it into the top 3. Logically, all 4 of them could advance to the second round. However, teammates would not be matched against each other during that round. Since High City was the host, Du believed the organizers would deliberately match him against Wu Zhang, allowing both High City competitors to advance without fighting either of them. Our protagonist's expression turned serious. Regardless of whether Du or Wu Zhang won in the second round, the victor would then have to face both members of the High City team consecutively in the third round. Du asked if anyone could realistically defeat 3 Tier 1 perfect martial artists within just 2 days. Moret finally understood why Du was so determined to eliminate Wu Zhang during the first round. Bo commented that the entire setup was basically under-the-table manipulation. Du admitted that his plan was also unfair to them, since he could not guarantee victory against Wu Zhang. If they failed, the entire team would be eliminated in the first round. Bo replied that they understood the limits of their own strength and were only there to participate. Moret then asked how Du planned to find Wu Zhang, or whether he could even locate him in such a vast area. As they continued walking, Du explained that with Wu Zhang's personality and strength, he would definitely head toward the area with the most badge marks and steal everyone else's badges. All they had to do was intercept him along the path leading from that area to the exit. The group climbed along a mountain path covered in thick fog. Suddenly, a deafening roar echoed from below. Looking down, they spotted another team fighting a massive wolf-like monster. Du was stunned when he recognized it as a BB wolf, one of the monsters from the crystal space. He could not understand why it had appeared there. The Alien Race Illustrated Handbook contained records of every monster humanity had discovered, yet none of the creatures from the crystal space appeared in it. Our protagonist began to wonder if the creatures inside the crystal space had originally come from the spirit realms. Below the cliff, a woman blamed Wu Zhang for putting them in that situation. The BB wolf continued attacking them relentlessly. One of her teammates shouted for Xiaomei to run. Suddenly, a sword strike descended and instantly cut down the monster. Xiaomei wondered if their teacher had come to rescue them. The group looked up in shock and saw Du standing above them. Du immediately asked whether they had seen Wu Zhang. One of the rescued students explained that their first marked location had been empty. While heading toward the second, they encountered Wu Zhang fighting 10 monsters, just like that one. He added that they had followed their teacher's instructions and immediately retreated after encountering Wu Zhang. However, one of the monsters targeted their team and chased them all the way there. Hearing this, Du quickly asked where the battle had taken place. The student pointed toward the mist-covered forest. Du remembered that there were no badge marks in that direction, making him wonder what Wu Zhang was doing there. Our MC reasoned that whenever something seemed unusual, there was always more to it. Still, if the student's story was true, Wu Zhang's stamina should have been nearly depleted after fighting 10 monsters. This was a rare opportunity to strike. Refusing to let the opportunity slip away, Du ordered his teammates to move. As they raced through the forest, Moret could not believe their luck. They had found exactly the opportunity they were searching for. Bo asked Du whether he had any plan for the upcoming battle. Du suddenly stopped. He warned them not to act rashly once they arrived. An ominous feeling had been bothering him, so he ordered them to follow his commands at all times. His teammates exchanged glances before agreeing. The group continued deeper into the forest. Hidden within the shadows, a monstrous wolf watched them with glowing red eyes. After running for a long time, Bo began to feel uneasy. He wondered if they had taken the wrong path since there was still no sign of Wu Zhang. A creature silently stalked them from the darkness. Du suddenly realized that they had been tricked. Without warning, a pack of ferocious BB wolves emerged from the darkness and surrounded them. Terrified, his teammates panicked and called out to Du, asking what those creatures were. Du realized that the information from those 3 students had only been half true. They had indeed encountered Wu Zhang, but he had never gone down this path. Those students had deliberately sent Du's team in the wrong direction, hoping the wolves would kill them so they could steal their badges afterward. Bo was horrified to discover that 20 wolves had surrounded them inside a wolf den. Moret realized just how carefully their enemies had planned the trap. Du noted that although there were fewer wolves than inside the crystal space, their life intensity was much higher. He instructed his teammates to avoid bleeding because the beast went berserk at the sight of blood. Since the wolves attacked using the spikes on the backs of their claws, he urged everyone to focus entirely on those claws. Our protagonist leaped into the air. With his glowing eyes locked onto his target, Du struck down a roaring BB wolf. Inside the auditorium, the audience watched the battle unfold. One spectator commented that the Liang City team had walked straight into a wolf den. Another guessed that they had blindly followed their navigation without checking their surroundings and would now be eliminated immediately after winning their previous battle. They believed defeat was inevitable, claiming that only senior sister Jo from the High City team possessed enough strength to fight 20 native wolves. Principal Lee was shocked and wondered if his team would really be eliminated in the first round. Cao sighed and remarked that it seemed they would be flying home together that night after all. Mayor Q commented that the 3 students had stumbled into a medium-sized wolf den. He then asked Jo what their chances were of making it through. Jo replied that their chances were below 10%. Mayor Q was stunned by the terrible odds. Jo explained that the first badge snatch battle had been organized specifically to show these geniuses how brutal the world truly was. Their cities might appear prosperous and peaceful, but the outside world was overrun with monsters. These future martial artists needed to face that reality sooner or later. Mayor Ku then asked whether the students could completely avoid the beasts as long as they stayed away from the wolf dens. Jo explained that all the badges had been placed behind seemingly safe wolf dens. If the students blindly followed their navigation without thinking, they would inevitably walk straight through those danger zones. He added that encountering BB wolves was not necessarily bad since the students could protect themselves against a small number. Unfortunately, the Liang City team had stumbled into a medium-sized den containing 20 wolves. Mayor Q wondered whether the High City team could make it through safely. Jo reassured him that the team included his daughter, Xiaogu, and Q's son, Ku Zhongtian. With those two present, he believed that even a large wolf den would not be enough to stop them. Meanwhile, Du effortlessly cut down another wolf. He noted that these monsters were far too weak to withstand even a single strike from him. After observing his surroundings, Du was pleased to see that he had drawn most of the wolves' attention. As long as the BB wolves did not enter berserk mode, his team should be able to hold out. Suddenly, a massive wolf ambushed his teammates. They immediately cried out for Chengdu's help. Moret urged Bo to finish off their opponents quickly so they could assist Du. The two decided to divide the remaining wolves between them. Du activated painting the ground as a prison. His energy erupted as he dealt with 2 wolves simultaneously. Our protagonist then leaped into the air and unleashed the second stance of the flowing light sword art, golden drums ringing to the heavens. A massive wolf was instantly cut down. Without stopping, Du followed with a powerful rising slash and unleashed the third stance, Breeze in the Forest. A rapid barrage of strikes tore through his target. 3 BB wolves lunged at Du from above. He activated flowing light sword art fourth stance, Pale Dragon Point Thrust. Having fought BB wolves countless times inside the crystal space, he was extremely familiar with their habits, movements, and coordination. Moret cursed in frustration. He had always been the strongest student in Liang City, yet now he felt like nothing more than a burden to the team. Du knew that most of the BB wolves had a life intensity of at least level 5, while the strongest approached level 6.5. Although he could unleash power comparable to a level 7 life intensity, he could not afford to act recklessly. He needed to wait for the wolves to attack first. He also knew that Bo was already struggling to hold back 3 BB wolves by himself, meaning he could not support Moret. Du realized that his current strength and speed were still not enough. He only needed to improve his performance by another 1%. If his sword became just a little faster, he could carve a path out of the encirclement. A BB wolf let out a deafening roar. The monster lunged forward and slashed downward. Du met its claws with a barrage of rapid sword strikes. Our protagonist estimated that he had only 2 minutes to reduce the BB wolves' numbers to single digits. Otherwise, their chances of escaping would completely disappear. He pushed himself even harder, channeling his energy to increase the speed of his sword. Du continued fighting relentlessly. Eventually, our boy gradually found his rhythm. He realized that if he could maintain this balance, his team would have a genuine chance of winning. Suddenly, Du was informed that Moret's arm had been slashed. 2 monsters now stood in front of Moret. Clutching his wounded arm, Moret apologized to his teammates. Du immediately ordered them to leave because the wolves were about to enter berserk mode. Moret and Bo hesitated. In a flash, dark energy erupted around a giant wolf as it charged straight at Moret. Electricity crackled around Du as he rushed forward and intercepted it before it could reach Moret. He successfully brought down the wolf. Du declared that he would remain behind and deal with the pack alone. He assured them that he would not die because Teacher Ling was secretly watching from the shadows. This was the only way his team could advance to the next round. Du ordered them to leave immediately. Bo told Moret that they could no longer hold back the enemy. As his teammates retreated, Du recalled that BB Wolves in Berserk mode temporarily gained incredible speed and strength. However, they also lost all reason and attacked the closest living creature in sight. Our MC had already faced 30 Berserk BB Wolves inside the crystal space. Now, it was time to experience that nightmare all over again. The ferocious monsters snarled at our protagonist. A Berserk wolf lunged at him from above. Du raised his sword and blocked its blade-like claws. The impact shocked him. This wolf possessed a level 7 life intensity. Inside the High City No. 1 high school auditorium, the audience watched in disbelief. One spectator remarked that no one could survive a medium-sized wolf den in Berserk mode, not even a martial artist with 99% Tier 1 mastery. Another expressed disappointment, having expected a showdown between the 4 great perfects during the second round. Someone else claimed that Zhou Xiaogu and Ku Zhongtian from the High City team could have handled those wolves with ease. Mayor Ku was impressed that Du had not been eliminated yet. Zhou agreed, though he found something about the boy rather strange. Mayor Q asked what he meant. After checking Du's profile, he discovered that the boy had never left Liang City before coming to High City. Looking at the file, Mayor Q dismissed Du's performance as pure talent. Zhou clarified that he was not talking about Du's martial arts level. What he found strange was the boy's combat style. Mayor Q asked him to explain. Zhou pointed out that Du's flowing light sword art was not yet perfect, meaning his martial arts mastery had not reached Tier 1, 99%. Despite this, he could predict attacks without even looking. It was as though Du had fought his way through mountains of corpses on the front lines. Mayor Q fell silent. Ordinary people knew nothing about the spirit realms, much less BB Wolves. Zhou had originally suspected that Du came from the extreme martial palace, which would explain how he knew so much about these monsters. However, after investigating him, Zhou was surprised to learn that the boy came from an ordinary family with no special background. Du stood his ground as the monsters closed in around him. Several wolves attacked simultaneously. He unleashed breeze in the forest and cut through their attacks. Our MC's focus never wavered. Du noted that aside from the strongest wolf with a level 7 life intensity, the rest ranged between level 6 and 6.5. Although only a dozen remained, their combined strength surpassed even the green firefly giant he had defeated inside the crystal space. Du unleashed a powerful strike at one of the wolves. He then drove his sword into a tree and used it to launch himself higher. Du needed to find a way to break through. He kicked off the tree and dove toward the wolves below. Our boy planned to catch them off guard and eliminate the weaker wolves first. Du cut down one wolf with a single strike, but the monsters immediately retaliated. Constantly kiting and fighting the pack had severely drained his stamina. He had to finish this battle quickly. Du struggled beneath the monster's overwhelming barrage of attacks. He realized that his speed could no longer keep up. The wolves relentlessly chased him. Du seized an opening and landed a powerful strike. However, another wolf immediately charged at him. In a flash, its attack tore into his body. Blood poured from his side. Still confident that he had discovered the enemy's weakness, Du urged himself to endure for just a little longer. A lethal red strike had wounded him. Our protagonist realized that his sword needed to become faster, stronger, and heavier. He needed to break through his limits. Du thought about his family, the countless hours he had spent training, and his teacher, Ling. To him, this was far more than a simple competition. It was the turning point that could change his entire life. He refused to fall there. With unwavering determination, Du poured everything he had into his next attack against the wolf. To his surprise, the feeling behind his sword was completely different this time. The BB wolves charged from both sides. The massive wolf seemed to grin as it caught Du's sword between its claws. Watching from a nearby tree, Ling regretted that Du had trusted those students so easily. It was a harsh lesson he needed to learn before entering society, but the price was far too high. Believing that the outcome had already been decided, Ling prepared to end the battle. But what happened next left him stunned. A powerful aura suddenly erupted around Du. Du could feel that this sword strike was completely different from every strike before it. Violent sword aura swirled around our MC as he cut down the wolves. He firmly planted his foot and stood tall, allowing his aura to erupt around him. Du realized that his sword's trajectory now moved perfectly with the wind. As a result, his strike had become even stronger. A system notification congratulated him. His flowing light sword art had successfully advanced from Tier 1 98% to Tier 1 99%. Inside the High City #1 high school auditorium, the audience was stunned. Cao could not believe that Du had achieved a martial arts breakthrough at such a critical moment. Li remarked that Du had now reached the same Tier 1 99% level as the other top competitors. Zhou was equally shocked. Under normal circumstances, the extreme pressure of a medium-sized wolf den should have caused even a student at Tier 1 99% to collapse from sheer physical exhaustion. Mayor Q pointed out that Du's flowing light sword art was far too powerful to be explained by Tier 1 99% strength and speed alone. Zhou suspected that Du was using mental power attachment and that his mental power was already approaching level 10. Mayor Q found the boy incredible and believed he had the potential to become a soaring martial artist. Zhou replied that possessing such immense mental power while still at the prospective martial artist stage was astonishing. However, a qualitative transformation would only occur once his mental power reached level 10, turning his soul into a true martial soul. He added that Du might never reach level 15 in the future. After all, achieving Tier 1 100% martial arts mastery was a massive threshold and one of the 3 mandatory requirements for becoming a soaring martial artist. Mayor Q laughed at Zhou for being so strict. As far as he was concerned, Du was already outstanding. Meanwhile, the audience questioned why the Mi City team had returned after the Liang City team had just saved them. Someone pointed out that the Mi City team had deliberately directed Du's group toward the wolf den. That explained why the Liang City team had inexplicably walked straight into danger. Inside the forest, Xiaomei asked Zhang Shuai if he was certain they could steal the Liang City team's badges. Zhang Shuai told her to relax. No matter how strong the Liang City team was, they could never handle that many BB wolves. He expected their team leader to intervene and kill the monsters to save them, which would automatically eliminate the entire team. According to the rules, eliminated participants had to leave their badges behind. Shuai pointed out that the badges had no tracking devices. There were also no other teams or BB wolves nearby to threaten them. He confidently declared that they were about to collect 2 more badges. Soon, the Mi City team arrived. One teammate praised Shuai and called him a brilliant tactician for predicting exactly what would happen. However, as Shuai examined the countless wolf corpses, he felt that something was wrong. His teammate pointed out that the badges were lying right in front of them. The badges rested on top of a fallen wolf. The group cautiously approached them. Xiaomei was amazed that the Liang City team leader had supposedly killed so many wolves by himself. Although a massive battle had clearly taken place, Shuai could not shake the feeling that they were overlooking something important. Then, the truth suddenly hit him. He immediately shouted for everyone to run. The Liang City team had never been eliminated. The badges were bait for a trap. Pointing at the dead wolves, Shuai's teammate found it impossible to believe that Du had killed all of them by himself. Suddenly, a sword strike tore through the air. The My City team was caught completely off guard. Du confirmed that he had indeed killed every wolf himself. He and his teammates then stepped out from the bushes. Our protagonist asked how Shuai had figured out that they had not been eliminated. Shuai nervously explained that the wounds covering the wolves had given everything away. Team leaders were forbidden from carrying weapons, so an unarmed team leader could never have left clean sword wounds like those. The defeated BB wolf lay on the ground, its body covered in obvious slash wounds. Du realized that Teacher Ling had always used different weapons during their martial arts sparring classes. He had completely overlooked that detail, and still had no idea which weapon Teacher Ling truly specialized in. Du reminded himself to be more careful from then on. He picked up a badge from one of the defeated BB wolves and asked where Wuzong was. Du tossed the badge toward Shuai and explained that he had no interest in collecting badges. The only thing he wanted was to fight Wuzang. Shuai realized that Du had entered the 100 Cities Hegemony tournament solely to challenge Wuzang. He explained that they had encountered Wuzang in the opposite direction. Their team had been heading toward the star mark behind them when they ran into the BB wolves along the way. Hearing that they had encountered wolves, Du realized there was a serious problem with the tournament's official straight-line navigation system. After checking the map, Shuai concluded that Wuzang had already left his original location, but should still be somewhere near the star mark. Suddenly, the Mi City team was struck down. Du had attacked them. He ordered them to leave their badges behind and exit the competition. Shuai angrily cursed at him. Du remained completely indifferent. As he walked away, our MC explained that he was merely returning the favor for their generous help in revealing Wuzong's location. Suddenly, someone stepped out from the bushes. It was a bald man. The man accused Du of lacking martial ethics and going back on his word. Bo was confused by his sudden appearance. And this teacher even has the audacity to question our MC's ethics when it's his students who deceived our MC's team first. Moray immediately erupted in anger, unable to accept what Feng had just said. Du recognized Feng as the Mi City team leader and realized that there was nothing to fear. Our protagonist calmly lectured him that this was simply called deception. Right back at you, bald head. The group then discovered that the Mi City team possessed the Marshal character badge. Bo finally understood why the Mi City team had schemed against them. They had already obtained both badges required to advance. While checking his screen, Murray was asked whether he still intended to challenge Wu Zhang in his current condition. Du declined, explaining that both his stamina and mental power were severely depleted. Even a weaker opponent could now force him into a difficult battle, let alone a top-tier expert like Wu Zhang. He admitted that tracking Wu Zhang's movements had helped them avoid the other perfect-level experts. Even so, he was surprised that they had collected all the required badges so quickly. The Mi City team leader then ran off while carrying his students. Du told his teammates to head directly toward the moon mark and submit their badges to complete the first round. Pointing at his interface, he instructed them to follow the route displayed on his map. His teammates immediately asked why they needed to take a detour. Du explained that something felt strange about the badge collection rules. He suspected that the organizers had lied about the badge locations being safe because obtaining them had been far too easy. Wu Zhang was supposedly attacked by BB wolves before reaching the star mark, and Du asked whether they found the use of the word midway interesting. Bo was stunned by the implication. Moray realized that the true danger did not lie at the destinations, but along the journey toward them. After carefully studying the map, Du concluded that the entire forest had been deliberately designed as a trap. Traveling between two star marks was the most reliable way to avoid the wolf dens, but it also greatly increased their chances of encountering other teams. Our protagonist concluded that every part of the competition had been meticulously designed. Teams without sufficient strength would never reach the moon mark, even after collecting the required badges, unless they were unbelievably lucky. Until they had completely passed the assessment, they could not afford to relax. His teammates agreed. Suddenly, someone moved through the bushes. A blonde man stepped out. Du cursed internally. They had run into the High City team, which included at least one and possibly two perfect-level experts. Du immediately tensed up, lamenting that they had been just moments away from reaching the finish line. The man asked whether Du was a Tier 1 perfect. Du noted that the man radiated an incredibly powerful sword intent and had instantly perceived his strength. After sensing the man's presence, Du recognized him as another Tier 1 perfect fighter, Ku Zhongtian. Zhongtian placed his ornate box on the ground. 6 swords emerged from both sides of the box. Du and his teammates remained on high alert. Suddenly, a voice called out and ordered Zhongtian to stop. Noticing the bloodstains covering Du, Xiaogu concluded that he had just fought a pack of BB wolves. She stated that fighting him in his current condition would make their victory unfair. Xiaogu added that she had not expected another Tier 1 perfect to appear besides Wu Zhang. She boldly declared that she would eliminate both Du and Wu Zhang during the next 2 rounds. Xiaogu proudly stated that the High City team had won the championship for 9 consecutive years. Nothing would prevent them from claiming their 10th consecutive victory. As the High City team walked away, Bo praised Zhou Xiaogu for her unexpectedly heroic behavior. Du silently questioned whether Bo had lost his mind. Our protagonist found it hilarious that someone named Little Girl Selling Nuclear Bombs could ever be described as heroic. He still remembered how she had once snuck up on him. Zhongtian was equally shocked to hear Xiaogu talk about winning honorably. Her true combat style relied on exploiting every weakness and never giving her opponents a chance to breathe. Xiaogu explained that the tournament was being broadcast live, so she needed to protect her public image. Back at the hotel, Du completed his daily mental power refinement using the Void Immortal Visualization method. Exhausted, he collapsed onto his bed and checked the tournament results. A total of 50 teams, consisting of 150 students, had passed the first round of the badge snatch battle. Du calculated that he needed to defeat 4 more competitors the following day to advance to the 3rd round. With his mental power currently at level 9, Du realized that killing every monster in the 7th wave would raise it to level 10, triggering a qualitative transformation in his abilities. Our MC was confident that reaching level 10 mental power would guarantee him first place. Since he just fell asleep, our boy is now standing inside the crystal space. Our protagonist firmly held his ground. He's about to train in his mental world again. His blue aura erupted around him. The 7th wave of monsters had arrived. Towering bears let out deafening roars as they approached. Each one carried multiple swords. Du prepared to face them. He recognized their silhouettes. A system prompt identified them as 2-faced 3-knife bears, monsters possessing a level 7 life intensity. The bears roared and charged straight at him. One bear swung its blade, but Du blocked the attack. Impressed by the monster's incredible strength, Du decided to reposition himself and attack from another angle. He leaped into the air to evade its next strike. Du was stunned to discover another pair of eyes on the back of its head. Our MC finally understood why the creature was called the two-faced, three-knife bear. After spotting him, the bear unleashed a powerful sweeping attack. However, Du avoided the blade with a mid-air flip. He landed and steadied himself, determined to defeat the monster that night and increase his level before the next day's battles. Du lunged forward, ready to strike. As he swung his sword, he noticed that the monster made no attempt to protect its neck. That meant its neck was not a weak point. He targeted its head next. However, its head was not a weak point either. Du was stunned. He realized that the creature focused entirely on attacking and never bothered to defend itself. Du tried striking its heart, but that was not its weak point either. Our protagonist carefully observed the monster. It swung another blade at him, but Du blocked the strike. He then noticed that its tail was constantly moving away from his attacks. Du immediately understood that the monster was deliberately protecting its tail. Leaping down, he planned to intentionally expose an opening while pretending to target the bear's head. Then, our boy patiently waited for the perfect moment. The moment an opportunity appeared, Du swiftly slipped underneath the monster and closed in on its tail. The two-faced three-knife bear immediately flew into a rage. In a flash, Du moved into position. The bear reacted furiously to his approach. Our protagonist unleashed Slash. He wanted to see how much longer the bear could continue hiding its tail. Back at the hotel, Xiaogu asked Teacher Zhang why he had called them over. He asked if they remembered the Liang City team they had encountered earlier. Xiaogu replied that she did, and recalled the student who had reached Tier 1 Perfect. Teacher Zhang revealed that the student's name was Chengdu. He warned them that Du might become their greatest obstacle to winning the championship. Although he came from a small city like Liang City, Du was extraordinary enough to defeat an entire medium-sized wolf den by himself. After hearing this, Xiaogu wondered if Du had already reached the Tier 1 limit. Teacher Zhang explained that Du had not reached the limit yet, but he had definitely entered the comprehension by analogy stage. However, they still did not know whether he had reached the form level or the intent level. Stunned, Zhongtian asked if Du's martial arts stage was already equal to Xiaogu's. Teacher Zhang advised Xiaogu to remain cautious, regardless of whether she faced Du, Wu Zhang, or anyone else. He then asked how confident she felt about defeating Du. Xiaogu remained completely confident. She declared that High City's 10th consecutive championship would have no blind spots. Inside the tournament hall, Zhou announced that the second round would consist entirely of 1v1 matches. Every participant's life intensity would be restricted to level 5, and teammates would not be matched against each other. The tournament organizers began explaining the rules for the second round. The original 150 competitors would first be reduced to 75, then 38, followed by 19, and finally the top 10. 4 consecutive elimination rounds would be held, with the top 10 participants advancing to the next day's finals. The system would dynamically arrange the matches based on each competitor's battle duration. Those who achieved faster victories would fight earlier in the following round, while those who endured longer battles would receive more time to rest. Each participant's seat number represented their qualifying rank from the previous day. Du noticed that he was ranked 16th after his team became the 4th to pass the first round. Everyone turned their attention toward the screen. The competitors watched with serious expressions. The crowd erupted in excitement, calling the opening match an explosive clash and an incredibly rare matchup. The tournament screen revealed a duel between Zhou Xiaogu of the High City team and Wu Zhang of the Lu City team. A menacing grin spread across Wu Zhang's face. Xiaogu merely let out a dismissive scoff. The audience knew that the championship would not be decided by the opening match alone. After all, powerful competitors remained, including Chengdu, who had single-handedly wiped out a wolf den, and the mysterious Ku Zhongtian, who had yet to make a single move. Du was curious to see how Xiaogu would perform against Wu Zhang. The system suppressed both competitors' life intensity to level 5. Xiaogu entered the arena while casually twirling her weapons. Wu Zhang was already waiting at the center of the arena. He stated that he had wanted to fight her for a long time. Xiaogu accepted his challenge and told him that he could request a rematch at High City No. 1 High School in the future. Wu Zhang drew his sword and prepared for battle. He wanted to fight the version of Xiaogu burdened by the pressure of securing 10 consecutive championships, the version forced to use her full strength. Everyone considered her invincible among their generation, but he refused to believe it. Xiaogu calmly advised him to start believing them. The two attacked simultaneously. Their weapons violently collided. Both competitors were forced backward. Their martial arts indexes appeared on the display screen, revealing that both had reached Tier 1 90%. One spectator questioned how their levels were being measured. Bo explained that their protective suits contained special force-sensing chips that calculated martial arts mastery based on the increase in their power. Wu Zhang launched another powerful attack. Xiaogu was forced to dodge at the last possible moment. His martial arts index rose to 92%. Wu Zhang immediately closed the distance between them. Xiaogu dodged him once again. Wu Zhang noticed that she never lowered her guard, even while he was airborne, and refused to recklessly rush forward to slash him. Despite his vulnerable position in midair, Zhou Xiaogu remained patient and never gave him an opening to exploit. Wu Zhang realized that she was targeting his supporting hand instead of attacking blindly. Sensing where her next strike would land, he drove his knee into her stomach. Xiaogu's brows furrowed from the impact. She quickly moved sideways to avoid his follow-up strike. Their martial arts indexes continued rising until they finally reached 99%. Sensing the intent within Wu Zhang's sword, Xiaogu realized that she needed to avoid the incoming strike. She tightened her grip on her sword and parried his attack. Wu Zhang's martial arts index rose to 95%. Zhang acknowledged that Xiaogu had forcibly changed the trajectory of his slash and even wounded his shoulder. Laughing, he admitted that she was truly powerful. Du wondered why he could not identify the basic martial arts they were using. Xiaogu declared that their battle had only just begun. She swung her sword, releasing a surge of purple energy. Zhang carefully studied her every movement. Xiaogu focused intensely as she prepared her next strike. She lunged forward and the two exchanged a rapid barrage of attacks as the battle grew even fiercer. Meanwhile, Ling explained that because Du's martial arts mastery had not previously reached Tier 1, 99%, he had never told him about the final 1%. Du immediately wondered what made that final 1% so special. Ling asked if he thought the next step after 99% was simply 100%. Confused, Du guessed that it was 99.1%. Ling explained that the final stage between 99% and 100% was called comprehension by analogy. He then asked if Du had noticed that he could not identify the basic martial arts being used, especially since their weapons did not resemble a standard dagger or sword. He explained that comprehension by analogy allowed someone to use a different weapon to perform their previous basic martial arts while retaining its original attributes. Du immediately realized that Wu Zhang's basic martial art was the cloak hammer technique. Wu Zhang shifted into the second stance and activated chaotic cloak hammer technique. Powerful energy surrounded Xiaogu. Despite wielding a light and versatile sword, Zhang perfectly recreated the heavy movements of the cloak hammer technique's 4 stances. This was the first stage of comprehension by analogy form. The next stage was intent. At that level, opponents could no longer identify the user's original basic martial art at all. Du realized that Xiaogu's basic martial art was the Holy King Staff technique. Wu Zhang unleashed the second stance of the cloak hammer technique, Guanyin's Tears, launching a devastating strike. Xiaogu focused entirely on the incoming attack. She had located his true position. After all, swords were incapable of cloning themselves. Zhang grinned and praised her sharp observation. Then, he immediately attacked again. Wu Zhang unleashed the third stance of the cloak hammer technique, 3 hammers of bitter winter. A massive wave of energy surged toward Xiaogu. However, she spotted an opening and launched a counterattack. Zhang caught her arm and declared that she had fallen into his trap. Xiaogu was stunned. At that exact moment, the interface revealed that Wu Zhang's martial arts index had reached 99.9%. A massive beam of light erupted as his power peaked at the quasi-limit of 99.9%. As smoke covered the arena, a lone figure could be seen standing within it. The crowd panicked, wondering if Xiaogu had been defeated. Just moments earlier, Wu Zhang had struck her with a devastating slash. He declared that the title of invincible among their peers now belonged to him. Stunned by Zhang's terrifying aura, Du felt relieved that he had not encountered him the previous day. Within the smoke, Xiaogu tightened her grip on her dagger. She unleashed Holy King Staff technique. 4th stance, drowning the 1,000-man army. A massive wave of blue energy swept across the arena. The sudden and overwhelming attack completely caught Wu Zhang off guard. Xiaogu's martial arts index reached 100%. One spectator pointed out that reaching the Tier 1 limit was one of the 3 major thresholds required to become a soaring martial artist. He was astounded that Xiaogu had achieved it at only 17 years old. Another remarked that the last person to accomplish the same feat before turning 18 was Wawa Toras, the principal of one of the top 8 schools. Unable to continue fighting, Wu Zhang dropped his weapon and conceded. Du sighed internally. He had hoped the two would fight to the bitter end, allowing him to swoop in and pick up whatever scraps remained. Mayor Q stated that it was no wonder Joe had previously mentioned 3 perfect-level martial artists. His daughter had already reached the Tier 1 limit and hidden her true strength incredibly well. Joe explained that she had only broken through the previous week, and even her team leader did not know. If everyone learned in advance that the seeded championship favorite had already reached the limit, it would damage the other participants' fighting spirit. Mayor Q snorted and agreed that a strong fighting spirit was extremely important for a student's growth. 2 university scouts watched from afar. The man wearing a cap commented that Xiao Gu was truly outstanding. The white-haired man agreed, but pointed out that her father was a 3-star deacon of the Extreme Martial Palace. Because of that connection, she would most likely choose Black Dragon Martial Arts University. Xiao Gu emerged from the smoke. The man in the cap noted that Wu Zhang was also impressive, though he had unfortunately already received early admission to Tianfeng Martial Arts University. The other scout lamented that Qilin Martial Arts University had acted one step too slowly and wondered if any other promising candidates remained. The man in the cap declared that only true geniuses interested them. The following duels passed in a flash. One participant complained that the matches were boring enough to put him to sleep. After witnessing the incredible duel between Xiaogu and Wu Zhang, he could no longer tolerate watching rookies fight each other. Then, the screen revealed the next matchup: Chen Du of Liang City versus Zhu Dairen of Wang City. The crowd immediately erupted with excitement. They recognized Du as the student who had single-handedly wiped out a wolf den, and many expected a decent match. Du rose from his seat and entered the arena. He noticed that Darren held the number 2 position, meaning he possessed the highest combat power in his group and had been the first to collect all the required badges the previous day. Our protagonist found this challenge rather interesting. Sighing, Darren admitted that he had never expected Xiaogu and Wu Zhang to be such monsters. With those 2 around, he could only hope to scrape his way into the top 10. Du replied that Darren seemed extremely confident about securing a spot in the top 10. Darren praised Du for single-handedly defeating an entire wolf den. However, he questioned how much of that strength Du had left after the previous day's battle. Du immediately sprang into action and unleashed a powerful slash. Zhu Dairen blocked the attack. Their weapons violently collided. The martial arts index revealed that both Chen Du and Zhu Dairen had reached Tier 1, 90%. The spectators were stunned to discover yet another hidden perfect-level expert. Dairen mocked Du for trying to end the match so quickly and asked if he was worried that his stamina would not last. He then unleashed Muramasa Blade Technique First Stance, Invisible Edge. His martial arts index instantly rose to 96%. Darren swung his glowing blade with tremendous force. Dairen's sword and fist left trails of smoke behind them. Du created some distance and recognized it as a strength-type Muramasa blade technique supported by the left hand. However, its greatest weakness was its lack of flexibility. Our protagonist realized that Darren believed he was still injured from the previous day and intended to drag the match into a battle of attrition until he collapsed from exhaustion. If not for the Crystal Space's recovery ability, Darren's plan might have actually succeeded. Du charged back into battle, determined to end the match quickly. Darren noticed that Du was openly using a thrust-type martial art against him. This immediately infuriated him. He shouted at Du not to underestimate him. Darren unleashed Muramasa Blade Technique Fourth Stance, Crescent Moon Sky Piercer. Du countered with Flowing Light Sword Art, Second Stance, Golden Drums ringing to the heavens. Du's martial arts index reached 99.3%. Darren's sword was blasted out of his hand. He stared at Du in disbelief, stunned by his overwhelming strength. Du finished the battle with painting the ground as a prison. Darren collapsed to the ground. Standing over him, Du asked if he had truly believed he could reach the top 10 after running into him. Internally, Du admitted that Darren had been dangerously strong, forcing him to temporarily avoid the man's sword. That was precisely why our MC intended to finish every battle as quickly as possible. The white-haired scout noticed that Du's true martial arts mastery did not appear to have reached 99.3%. He suspected that mental power had amplified the attack. The other scout replied that although Du was decent, his level 9 mental power barely reached the passing standard. The white-haired scout remarked that it was a shame Du had not reached level 10 mental power and transformed his soul into a martial soul. The man in the cap explained the Qilin class's strict admission requirements. A candidate needed to possess a level 11 life intensity before turning 18, level 10 mental power, or Tier 1 limit martial arts. Their entire reason for attending the competition was to uncover a true genius among geniuses who met one of those conditions. He agreed that Du's mental power and martial arts were both slightly lacking, even without considering his life intensity. Still, compared to Darren, Chen Du was a promising prospect near the upper end of the passing standard. Recognizing his potential, the man in the cap suggested speaking with Du that night to see if they could convince him to sign a letter of intent. The second round of the competition finally ended. 2 figures walked past the hotel, already looking forward to the next day's finals. Meanwhile, Du sat inside his room as the sun began to set. By taking advantage of the battle duration rule, he had successfully avoided Zhou Xiaogu throughout all 4 rounds and advanced without trouble. Du entered the crystal space and reflected on how effective real combat was for increasing life intensity. Although he had fallen slightly short the previous night, he was now confident that he could completely wipe out the bears. He cut down a two-faced three-knife bear with one powerful slash. A system notification congratulated him. His life intensity had increased from 5.8 to 5.9. Du realized that his stats had finally increased. This confirmed that his decision to fight the BB wolves and endure 4 rounds of duels had been correct. A giant grasshopper monster stepped forward. Our protagonist decided to use it to test how much stronger his 0.1 increase had made him. Suddenly, Du's consciousness returned to reality. A message from Teacher Ling appeared on his phone. Du went to meet him and asked if something had happened. Inside Ling Yun's room, Du was introduced to Teacher Yu and Teacher Ping. Ling explained that the two teachers came from the Special Admissions Office of Qilin Martial Arts University. Qilin Martial Arts University was one of the world's 3 top-tier martial arts universities, alongside Black Dragon Martial Arts University and Tianfeng Martial Arts University. Teacher Yu clarified that they were responsible for recruiting students who qualified or showed the potential to qualify for the Qilin class. Teacher Peng added that the university poured its most valuable resources into the Qilin class to cultivate the strongest soaring martial artists. Du admitted that he did not appear qualified for such a program. He then asked whether there was any special significance to achieving Tier 1 limit martial arts or reaching a level 11 life intensity before turning 18. You realized that Du's teacher had not yet told him about the secret treasure. He explained that whenever someone became a martial artist, a secret treasure would automatically open within their body and begin absorbing stellar energy, increasing their mental power in the process. You added that anyone who achieved Tier 1 limit martial arts and a level 11 life intensity before turning 18 would simultaneously open 2 secret treasures instead. Furthermore, if someone's martial arts and mental power met the requirements at the same time, they could open 3 secret treasures. He then revealed that the human body contained 10 secret treasures in total. Each one functioned like a passive skill that provided additional attributes, meaning the more someone unlocked, the stronger they would become. Du listened carefully. You concluded that opening 2 secret treasures at level 10 earned someone the title of genius, while opening 3 made them a peerless genius. Teacher Peng noted that although Du had not yet reached the special admission standard, he possessed tremendous potential. He offered Du a C-class letter of intent, which would secure his place as a reserve candidate for the Qilin class. He explained that prestigious academies like Qilin, Black Dragon, and Tianfeng relied entirely on contract-based admissions to recruit elite talent. Signing the agreement would immediately provide Du with resources worth millions, including key blood medicines, martial arts hall sparring partners, and mental tempering pills. If Du met the requirements after enrolling but before becoming a martial artist, the contract would automatically be upgraded to B class. Chen Du could also directly enter the Qilin class if a position became available. Du asked whether his family could move with him if he signed the contract. Teacher Yu denied the request, explaining that the rules explicitly required his family to remain in their current residence. Teacher Peng added that, for everyone's safety, only martial artists carrying out missions and soaring martial artists were permitted to travel freely between regions. After hearing this, Du apologized and politely declined their offer. The recruiters were stunned and wondered whether he had chosen Black Dragon or Tianfeng instead. Du revealed that he intended to enroll at Mount Huang Martial Arts University, one of the top 8 famous schools. Teacher Yu was dumbfounded. He could not believe they had lost Du to an institution weaker than theirs. Losing him to one of their top-tier rivals would have been understandable, but losing to Mount Huang Martial Arts University was a completely different kind of embarrassment. Du explained that he wanted to remain close to his family so he could protect them from the constant threat of monster invasions. Teacher Peng urged him to reconsider. Out of tens of millions of candidates, the chance of entering the Qilin class was only 0.00014%. He added that more than 50% of the strongest martial artists in their entire civilization had graduated from one of the 3 top-tier martial arts universities. He told Du that if he truly wanted to protect his family, he needed to aim higher. After all, a genius could influence the world far more than an ordinary person ever could. Du simply smiled. He thanked them for recognizing his potential. However, our protagonist remained firm in his decision to reject the contract. The 2 recruiters left. Du then asked Teacher Ling if he had anything to say. Teacher Ling replied that although listening to advice could keep someone well-fed, there was nothing wrong with choosing his own path. He encouraged Du to give everything he had in the following day's competition. Internally, however, Ling knew that he still needed to speak with the principal and find another way to persuade Du. At the Zhou family's training ground, Xiaogu continued her training. She repeatedly practiced her staff techniques. Xiaogu unleashed a powerful strike. But she quickly grew frustrated. Her father effortlessly stopped her staff with just 2 fingers. Zhou Cheng pointed out that she had been attacking him for 3 straight hours. He told her to take a break. Xiaogu grumbled about her father and vowed to defeat him someday. Zhou Cheng handed her a drink and reminded her that before worrying about defeating him, she should focus on winning the championship. Her mood instantly improved when she noticed that the drink was white peach flavored. Xiaogu confidently declared that she still had several powerful trump cards left to reveal. She was certain that the championship would belong to High City. The next day, at High City No. 1 High School Auditorium, Du arrived alongside Teacher Ling. Suddenly, our boy sensed someone staring at him. Several principals observed him from afar. Principal Cao noted that Du's level 9 mental power allowed him to detect their gazes. Principal Li praised the boy for being truly outstanding. Ling explained that Principal Li had been paying close attention to Du and had specifically come to watch his match. He added that the other people sitting nearby were principals from various schools. An announcement congratulated the students who had reached the top 10 before introducing the rules for the finals. The finals would be divided into 2 rounds. During the first round, the system would randomly draw 5 1v1 matchups, immediately reducing the competitors to the top 5. The second round would be a gauntlet battle, beginning with a random selection from those 5 finalists. The chosen person would become the first challenger and fight the remaining 4 contestants, earning 2 points for every victory and losing 1 point for every defeat. Afterward, the competitor with the highest score among the remaining 4 would become the second challenger. This pattern would continue unless a tie forced the system to select the next challenger randomly. Du calculated that one competitor could earn a maximum of 8 points. Under normal circumstances, no ties would occur. However, there was one situation where the system would need to randomly select the second challenger. That situation would occur if the first challenger swept all 4 opponents and immediately earned 8 points, leaving the other 4 tied at -1 point. Du decided to conserve as much stamina as possible for the upcoming gauntlet battle. The first round matchups appeared on the screen. Group 1 would feature Chen Du of the Liang City team against Ku Zhongtian of the Hai City team. The spectators pointed out that 2 consummate-level fighters had encountered each other in the very first round. Some claimed that Du had been too afraid to fight Xiaogu and merely exploited the rules to sneak into the top 10. They predicted that Zhongtian would defeat him easily. Du realized that if Hai City had developed a strategy to secure the championship, allowing them to drain his stamina during the first round would put him at a severe disadvantage. One spectator claimed that Zhongtian was already slightly stronger than Du, let alone Xiaogu. Another added that if Zhongtian defeated him, the Hai City team could sweep the top 3 and secure its 10th consecutive championship. Teacher Yu wondered aloud if there was even any reason to keep watching the finals. Teacher Peng held a black card containing 1 million, planning to give it to Du after his defeat as an investment in his future. In his eyes, someone who cared so deeply about his family would never stray down the wrong path. Du possessed tremendous talent and simply lacked money, so Teacher Peng thought very highly of him. Du stepped into the arena with his sword in hand. Du internally noted that Ku Zhongtian's previous opponents had been far too weak. They had either surrendered immediately or fallen to a single strike from his sword. Even now, Du could not determine Zhongtian's true level or identify the basic martial arts he used. Our protagonist decided to observe him before making a move. Smiling, Zhongtian placed his box on the ground and drew his sword. He stated that he had always expected the 2 of them to fight. Du was caught off guard by his words. Without warning, Zhongtian charged forward, leaving the box behind. Du blocked the strike just in time. To his surprise, Zhongtian was using the flowing light sword art. Zhongtian admitted that he had been equally surprised when he saw Du use the same technique the previous day, since they both practiced the same sword art. Zhongtian wanted to settle their duel through sheer strength and power. Their blades violently collided as he continued pressing his attack. Du felt the pressure steadily increasing as Zhongtian's sword grew heavier with every strike. He realized that his opponent had gone all out from the very beginning. The audience noticed that Zhongtian's martial arts index had reached 99%, just like Du's. Zhongtian swung his weapon again and declared that their battle was far from over. Du firmly blocked the powerful strike. He could not understand how Zhongtian's power continued increasing when he should have already reached his limit. For a moment, Du wondered if Zhongtian had also reached comprehension by analogy. Zhongtian dodged Du's attack. However, he sensed the mental power attached to Du's sword. At the same time, Du's martial arts index climbed to 99.2%. Du realized that he still needed to defeat 5 people to win the championship. He had to end this battle quickly and conserve as much stamina as possible. Zhongtian asked if Du was finally ready to attack. Du declared that he would end the battle in an instant. Zhongtian scoffed, eager to witness this so-called instant victory. Then, Du unleashed the 4th stance of the flowing light sword art, Pale Dragon Point Thrust. He shot forward at incredible speed. Raising his sword, Zhongtian believed that such a direct attack lacked enough lethal power to defeat him. Suddenly, Du changed techniques. The 4th stance seamlessly transformed into the 2nd stance of the flowing light sword art, Golden Dragon Returning to Heaven. Zhongtian recognized Du as a true expert for switching moves so effortlessly. Before Zhongtian could react, Du unleashed the flowing light sword art 3rd stance, Breeze in the Forest. Our protagonist calmly bid his opponent farewell. Surging with energy, Du's sword pierced straight through Zhongtian's defenses. Zhongtian cried out in disbelief as the attack struck him. Du turned away and casually rested his sword on his shoulder. A system prompt confirmed that Du's martial arts index had reached 100%, meaning he had achieved Tier 1 limit martial arts. The spectators were stunned. For many of them, it was their first time witnessing someone reach the martial arts limit. The crowd erupted into cheers upon realizing that Du had been hiding his true strength. They believed this revelation would completely shake up the standings of the 100 Cities Hegemony tournament. A gentle smile spread across Du's face. Zhongtian suddenly spoke, causing Du to glance back at him. Zhongtian sighed, unable to understand how Chengdu had reached the Tier 1 limit. He had not sensed any intent from the sublimation of the 4 stances at all. Du announced that he was leaving and walked away from the arena. The system declared Chengdu of the Yang City team the winner. Du found it amusing that Zhongtian had only been fishing for information to help his teammate. Principal Li was stunned that Du had improved by another 1% in a single day. Advancing from 99% to 100% required crossing 10 separate thresholds of 0.1%, making such rapid progress seem utterly impossible. Nearby, Teacher Yu and Teacher Peng watched in disbelief. Peng commented that the chances of Du advancing so quickly were incredibly low because such growth was far too exaggerated for any martial artist. Zhou approached them and asked why they had not informed him that they were coming to watch the competition. He added that if someone had not told him that morning, he would have remained completely unaware that they were in High City. Teacher Yu congratulated him, noting that his daughter had likely already received a B-class letter of intent from Black Dragon Martial Arts University. Zhou modestly replied that his daughter merely possessed a tiny bit of potential to become a soaring martial artist. Zhou then praised Du and expressed his excitement for the upcoming matches. The High City supporters fell into despair when Waluo lost shortly after Zhongtian's defeat. No one had expected Waluo's opponent to achieve a sudden breakthrough in the middle of their battle. With only Xiaogu remaining, the supporters nervously wondered if the High City team's championship run was doomed. Xiaogu stepped into the arena with her staff in hand. The crowd continued cheering for her. Her opponent remained confident in his Luomen shield technique. He believed its defensive power would allow him to hold out until Xiaogu revealed an opening. Her opponent stepped forward. Xiaogu instantly charged and unleashed a devastating glowing strike. The system immediately announced Zhou Xiaogu's victory. The crowd erupted into cheers after Xiaogu secured victory in just 1 second. They discussed how completely she would crush Du and realized that their earlier fears of her losing had been entirely groundless. As the first round ended and seamlessly transitioned into the rotational battles, Du wondered who would be selected as the first challenger. The second round soon began. Zhou Xiaogu's name appeared on the screen. The spectators expected her to be crowned champion immediately and eagerly anticipated watching her sweep all 4 opponents in a row. Xiaogu stepped into the arena. She announced the first contestant she wanted to challenge. Her choice was Chengdu of the Liang City team. Du noted that Xiaogu was every bit as powerful and confident as he had expected. Our protagonist smiled. This was exactly what he wanted. Xiaogu silently watched him. The instant the match began, Xiaogu unleashed her full power, raising her martial arts index to 100%. The spectators wondered if she intended to eliminate Du in a single strike. Du wondered if he was finally witnessing limit intent. Sublimating a combat stance with a power that nearly entered the realm of metaphysics was truly extraordinary. Xiaogu unleashed Holy King Staff Technique 4th Stance, drowning 1,000 miles. A massive wave of energy surged toward Du. A system prompt revealed that Du's martial arts index had also reached 100%. He parried the overwhelming wave. Seeing Du deflect her attack, Xiaogu concluded that he was finally going all out. She acknowledged that Du certainly possessed some skill. Du focused on channeling his energy. Blue energy enveloped his body, and the crowd immediately noticed the strange aura surrounding him. Ling smiled with excitement, impressed that Du had actually succeeded. Teacher Yu was stunned. He had not misread the data earlier. Du's mental power had truly reached level 10. This meant that his soul had already transformed into a martial soul. Du's soul had already transformed into a martial soul. A brilliant blue aura enveloped his body. He charged forward and seized the initiative. Xiaogu was stunned by how much faster he had become. Du's sword descended with tremendous force, forcing her to leap backward. Our protagonist immediately repositioned himself for another attack. Xiaogu parried his strike. However, she struggled beneath the overwhelming weight and power behind it. She wondered if this was the effect of martial soul attachment. Du continued his relentless assault. Then, he spotted an opening in her defense. He immediately targeted it. Xiaogu's center of gravity was thrown off, forcing her to adjust her stance. Her footing became unstable. And Du noticed it. Our MC realized that her rhythm had been disrupted. As long as he refused to give her a chance to regain her footing, victory would be his. Xiaogu barely parried another attack. Increasing his power, Du became even more determined to defeat Xiaogu. His feet remained firmly planted. Du thrust his sword toward her, now even more confident that he would win. Principal Chao marveled at how Chen Du had used his level 10 mental power to forcefully raise his martial arts index to 100%. He was stunned that the boy had hidden such an ability so well. Principal Li, who had initially planned to guide Du after his defeat, immediately changed his mind and encouraged him to win the championship instead. Internally, Principal Li cheered for Du to defeat Xiaogu. Smiling, Teacher Peng raised Du's contract to B class, certain that he was worth the upgrade. Teacher Yu realized that they would have to shamelessly attempt to recruit him again. After hearing this, Zhou silently wondered if Du had rejected their offer the previous day. Teacher Yu turned to Zhou and teased him for being such a daughter-obsessed father. He questioned how Zhou could remain so calm, warning him that Xiaogu was certain to lose unless something unexpected happened. Zhou agreed, repeating that Xiaogu would lose if nothing unexpected happened. And right on cue, something unexpected happened. Du was stunned to discover that Xiaogu's strength and speed had suddenly reached an entirely different level. Xiaogu admitted that Du was quite impressive. Even her incredibly strict father would acknowledge him as a genius. However, she proudly declared that she was a genius among geniuses. Du realized that Xiaogu also possessed a martial soul, having combined Tier 1 limit martial arts with level 10 mental power. A powerful aura enveloped her metal staff. Internally, Du urged himself to move even faster. Xiaogu struck his sword with her staff. Du raised his sword again. Xiaogu charged straight toward him. He used his sword to block her staff, but the overwhelming pressure forced him backward. A small smile spread across Xiaogu's face. She swung her staff upward and knocked Du's sword from his hand. Du's sword fell to the ground. His body trembled from exhaustion. Xiaogu asked if he was finally running out of energy. She declared that the fight was over. Internally, Xiaogu admitted that his performance had surprised her, but it was still not enough to defeat her. But then, Du replied that she was not the one who decided whether their fight was over. Xiaogu lunged forward with her weapon. Electric blue energy flashed through Du's eyes as he unleashed mental shock and war stomp. Xiaogu realized that Du's physical strength had weakened because he had poured all the power of his martial soul into his eyes to launch this attack. The pressure around her intensified as the blue energy completely swallowed her. Her mind came under attack. Xiaogu was utterly stunned. She had never expected Du to possess such exceptional mental power. Only then did she realize that she had fallen into an illusion created by his mental attack. Sweat rolled down her face as the blue aura flared violently. Suddenly, she heard a strange sound. A massive shadowy figure with a glowing red eye emerged from the smoke. Xiaogu tightened her grip on her weapon as the figure loomed over the battlefield. Channeling her remaining energy, she desperately tried to withstand Du's mental assault. Xiaogu gritted her teeth in frustration. Meanwhile, Du's sword became enveloped in blue energy. He grabbed it once again. The spectators anxiously shouted for Xiaogu to snap out of it and move. They refused to believe that she could lose and desperately hoped for one final turnaround. Suddenly, a slash tore across her chest. Du declared that the battle was over. The system announced Chen Du as the winner. Zhou's expression immediately darkened. Furious, Zhou vowed that he would remember Chen Du. Teacher Yu praised Du for independently comprehending a mental martial art, explaining that it proved his mental power had the potential to surpass level 15. If Du increased his life intensity, he would undoubtedly become a top martial artist, making him a quasi-A-class genius. Teacher Peng questioned whether they should directly offer Chen Du an A-class letter of intent, reminding him that contracts of that level were exceedingly rare. Teacher Yu countered that Du's abilities already possessed strategic-level potential. However, offering an A-class or S-class contract required the principal's personal approval. Determined to secure Du at any cost, Teacher Yu decided that they should contact the principal immediately. Inside a corridor at High City No. 1 High School, "Teacher, you made the call and asked whether the arrangement was possible." The principal found this prospective martial artist's desire to protect his family rather interesting. Pang Tianwen, the principal of Qilin Martial Arts University, acknowledged the two teachers' assessment. Considering Du's exceptional potential, he agreed that granting him an A-class letter of intent was reasonable. However, allowing Du to relocate his family to the first biosphere directly violated the high martial civilization regulations. Teacher Yu quickly informed him that the other two universities had already secured contracts with A-class students that year. Meanwhile, Qilin had only just discovered a quasi-A-class talent in Du. He believed that signing Du early and increasing his life intensity would give them a chance to improve their ranking in the upcoming three-school freshman joint martial arts tournament. He complained that they could not keep finishing in third place every single year. Pang Tianwen decided to consider the request and instructed Teacher Yu to wait for his response. During the afternoon's post-match ceremony, Du received his championship medal. The announcer declared that Chen Du of the Liang City team had won the 100 Cities Hegemony tournament, becoming the first student from Liang City to claim the championship. Du reflected on everything he had endured during his training. If he had not defeated the two-faced three-knife bears inside the crystal space the previous night, his mental power would never have reached level 10. Without that breakthrough, he would not have comprehended War Stomp. Du then evaluated his performance against Xiaogu. If they fought again, she would never give him enough time to charge his mental attack or allow him to get close. Under those conditions, he admitted that he would undoubtedly lose. Despite that, our protagonist strengthened his resolve. There were no ifs. He had won, and that was all that mattered. Inside High City No. 1 High School, Principal Zhou remained in his office. He invited someone to enter. A woman walked into the office and asked why he had skipped the awards ceremony and missed his chance to meet Chen Du, especially now that everyone had already left. Zhou replied that he would meet Du next time. He then revealed that he would return to the Extreme Martial Palace in a few months and instructed her to inform the other 3-star deacons. The dynasty plan had officially begun. The woman acknowledged his order. Back at home, a feast had been prepared inside the apartment to celebrate Du's victory. His father proudly praised him for bringing the championship home to Liang City. His mother enthusiastically congratulated him, while his sister revealed that his victory had already caused a massive sensation throughout the city. Du smiled and reassured them that he had earned a large amount of prize money. From then on, their family would no longer need to worry about money. The entire family raised their drinks and celebrated together. To Du, moments like this with his family were what true happiness looked like. Around sunset, Du asked his sister why she had suddenly decided to live at school. She explained that she wanted to work hard and improve her strength just like him, so she would never bring shame to their family. Du smiled and told her to train seriously so that the time he spent taking her to school would not go to waste. Suddenly, our protagonist stopped walking. His sister stared at him in confusion. She teasingly asked whether his fans had come to block their path. Then, she noticed something unusual ahead. A silver demon stood in the middle of the street. Du was alarmed. He could not understand how such a monster had suddenly appeared inside the city and wondered if Liang City had fallen. However, no invasion alarm had sounded, meaning the city's defenses remained intact. Du instead suspected that these monsters had been secretly hiding inside Liang City all along. He glanced at his smartwatch. Du was stunned to see 8 barbs protruding from the monster's body, indicating that it possessed a level 8 life intensity. Realizing the danger, he immediately shielded his sister and ordered her to run. The silver demon charged toward them with incredible speed. Cold sweat rolled down Du's face as he prepared to fight. Du realized that he had left his sword at home and urgently needed to find another weapon. He spotted a steel rebar among some nearby rubble. Since it was the only weapon available, Du grabbed it. A blue aura enveloped his body. The silver demon lunged forward and attacked with its massive fist. Facing the attack head-on, Du channeled his energy. He unleashed flowing light sword art, Breeze in the Forest. Using the makeshift weapon, Du struck the monster with a powerful burst of energy. However, he immediately realized that the steel rebar completely lacked flexibility, preventing him from fully executing the stance. Seizing the opening, the monster attacked again. The impact sent Du flying backward. He slid across the ground before finally regaining his footing. Du calculated that the monster's life intensity was 2.1 levels higher than his own. Without a proper weapon, he had no chance of defeating it. Our protagonist realized that his only option was to find an opportunity to escape. The silver demon loomed over him. Just then, his sister told him not to move. She stepped forward and challenged the monster to face her instead of hurting Du. Our protagonist was horrified. The monster immediately turned toward her. Fearing for his sister's life, Du rushed forward and shouted for the monster to stay away from her. He instantly unleashed War Stomp. The silver demon trembled under the mental assault. Du prepared to face it head-on. A system notification congratulated him. His flowing light sword art had improved from Tier 1 99% to Tier 1 99.1%. Du smiled. He realized that, through comprehension by analogy, even an ordinary steel rebar could be wielded like a longsword. Du swung it downward with all his strength. However, the steel rebar shattered under the tremendous force. Du could only stare at his broken weapon in shock. The shattered pieces of steel rebar scattered across the ground. Du was stunned. He dropped the broken weapon. Then, he immediately grabbed his sister and tried to escape from the monster. Using his smartwatch, Du ordered the system to send a distress signal. Unexpectedly, the silver demon blocked their path. Du could not understand how it had suddenly become even faster. He realized that there was no time to call the City Defense Corps for help. Du thought that even if the incoming punch killed him, he could at least use its momentum to throw his sister out of danger. But what happened next stunned him. The monster was suddenly struck down. Only then did Du relax. A man carrying a spear reported that the target had been eliminated and that there were no casualties. The man asked if Du was all right before introducing himself as Hu Qiang of the City Defense Corps. They had received reports from citizens who spotted the monster, and fortunately, he had arrived just in time. Du's sister was overwhelmed with relief. Du thanked Hu Qiang and introduced himself. Principal Li secretly watched from a distance. A man beside him complained that Principal Li had never mentioned Du, knowing a mental-type martial art. That golden light technique had directly severed his control over the silver demon and nearly caused a serious accident. Principal Li replied that this only proved the man had not trained his martial arts enough. As for Du's safety, he had already arranged for Ling Yun and Hu Qiang to remain nearby. He hoped that the chance encounter they had arranged that night would help Du understand something important. That night, inside the martial arts building of Liang City No. 1 High School, Du sat alone on the floor. He received a message from his sister asking how he was doing. Du reassured her that he was fine, but asked her to keep the incident hidden from their parents. He then transferred 1,000 yuan to her. She understood that she needed to remain silent, since Hu Qiang had also instructed her not to mention what happened. Du's brows furrowed. There was a fresh wound on his arm. Our protagonist realized that he had been far too naive. Danger had never been far away. It had been lurking right beside him all along. If disaster struck while he was studying at Mount Huang Martial Arts University, he would never make it back in time to save his family. Du realized that he was still far too weak. The silver demon had possessed a low level of martial arts mastery, yet its high life intensity alone had been enough to completely overwhelm him. Life intensity was the foundation of everything. However, increasing it required an enormous amount of resources, the exact kind offered by Kilin Martial Arts University. Du gritted his teeth. Our protagonist realized how short-sighted he had been. What he truly needed was not to remain beside his family. He needed to grow stronger at the fastest speed possible, so fast that he could destroy every enemy before they even had a chance to attack. Suddenly, someone entered the room. It was Principal Li. Du asked what he was doing there. Principal Li replied that he had brought Du a gift as a token of gratitude. Du did not understand what he meant, so Principal Li explained that Du had given both him and Mayor Wang something to look forward to during the 100 Cities Hegemony tournament. They had originally believed that reaching the top 10 would be enough. However, Du had not only exceeded their expectations, but also set a new record by winning Liang City's first championship. His victory had increased the school's ability to recruit talented students while taking Principal Li's career to the next level. Du accepted the gift and thanked him. Principal Li then opened the refrigerator. He handed Du a bottle of water. Curious about why the principal seemed so familiar with the martial arts room, Du asked about it. Principal Li revealed that the room had originally belonged to him. However, he added that it was far more suitable for Du now. Principal Li then noticed that Du's clothes were filthy, almost as though he had been rolling across the ground. Internally, Du remembered that Hu Qiang had instructed him not to spread the incident. Still, since only he and the principal were present, he figured that sharing it would not cause any problems. Du admitted that something had been bothering him and asked Principal Li for advice. He revealed that he had encountered a level 8 silver demon inside the city and asked how a monster could have appeared there. Principal Lee reacted with exaggerated shock. Internally, however, he had been waiting for Du to bring up the subject. Du reassured him that he was fine and admitted that he wanted to know the secret behind the incident. Principal Lee explained that the answer was a secret known only to martial artists and those above them. Ordinary people could never be allowed to learn the truth. Du asked what would happen if they discovered it. Principal Lee answered that the order of the entire high martial civilization would collapse. Alright, that's it for today's story. If you want the weekly chapter updates for this series, those will now be uploaded on my second channel, Manhwa Updater. So if you don't want to miss what happens next, make sure to check it out and join the update gang. Thanks for watching, stay cool, stay awesome, and I'll see you in the next one.